And with that, welcome into our Big Ten Network studio and the Monday Coaches Press Conference edition of Big Ten Live. I'm your host, Rick Pizzo. 8 weeks are in the books. 6 remain, and this coming weekend will mark the final weekend when teams have a Saturday off. 4 teams on bye. After this weekend, you get into the month of November. You have 7 conference games each and every Saturday through the final month of the season. But that means the teams who are off this weekend, you will not hear from their head coaches on Monday. We typically do hear from Jim Harbaugh, Brett Bielema, Greg Schiano, but with Michigan, Illinois, and Rutgers on bye this Saturday, here is the list of coaches that you will hear from. They include P.J. Fleck, Luke Fickell, Harlon, Barnett, Ryan Walters, Matt Rhule, Tom Allen, and David Braun. We will start with the Gophers, a controversial Floyd of Rosedale win over Iowa. A potential game-winning punt return from Hawkeye Cooper DeJean wiped out after review showed an illegal fair catch call. It led to a 12-10 victory for Minnesota and the first ever win over Iowa for P.J. Fleck during his tenure in Minneapolis, as Floyd does head back to the Twin Cities for the first time in just about a decade. Also opens up the West Division. Don't count Minnesota out. Don't count anybody out to represent this division in Indianapolis. The Gophers, a favorable schedule over the next 3 weeks. Home against Michigan State, home against Illinois, on the road to Purdue before finishing in Columbus. And then, of course, the Axe game against Wisconsin. Lots to talk about this week in the Twin Cities. And for that, here's P.J. Fleck.
Good morning, everybody. Obviously a great win for us. Really excited to bring Floyd home, and our players put him in his pen yesterday, so that was really cool to watch them do that. It's kind of a tradition around here, so really excited about that. Being able to win the first time at Kinnick Stadium since 1999, that's a huge feat for us, and something that we set out to go accomplish. And having both, I actually just walked by and took a picture of it, which is unique. It's the first time we've had the axe and the pig in there since, 1993. What's that?
You couldn't haul it out for us, 188 pounds?
No. Somebody asked me this morning if I was able to get that over my head. And I can't get a broomstick over my head, guys. So let alone Floyd with my shoulder surgery. So, but that's the first time we've had both of those in the building since 1993, 30 years. And that means a lot. I don't think, when you sit there and think about it, you got to take that stuff in at least for a few hours or minutes or seconds, or else, what are you doing it for? So we did that yesterday with our football team, and now we go back to work. Got a lot of work to do and got to continue to get better. We got a really good opponent coming into Huntington Bank Stadium who's really athletic, really good. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, and athletes everywhere. Also just want to, send our thoughts and prayers out to Muhammad Ibrahim, obviously with what happened to him yesterday. Got a chance to FaceTime him, talk to him, and, he's doing okay. He's in really good spirits, which is good. Just as, when people get hurt, there's a lot of emotions that go through and the whys and what's next and things like that. So if all of our fans would just keep him in your thoughts and prayers, that would be great. And I know he could use your support right now. Especially the first time he's touched the football in the National Football League. It's unfortunate because I think he's one of the, he's on his way. And sometimes we just don't know why, but things happen. It's football. So keep him in your thoughts and prayers. So really excited about the win, obviously. Had a great bus ride home. It was a lot of fun. And now we're moving on. So we're 0-0 again. It's Monday, 0-0. Looking to be 1-0 in the Michigan State season. So with that, we'll open up for questions.
Did you take some time for yourself to celebrate a little bit in the wee hours of Sunday morning, or how did you do that? Any insights you can share with us?
Yeah, I'll give you maybe a little bit. We celebrate, life's about moments and memories, right? And we took the bus ride home, 5 hours home. You get home at 1 o'clock in the morning. And, I've had a very special bottle that's in my bourbon cabinet that I collect, and it had that name written on it. Got home, and Heather and I shared just a teeny bit of what it tastes like, and it tasted just as good as I thought. So it was worth the wait. It was worth the wait. And every time we didn't win, I was like, man, I can't wait to taste that bottle. And people ask, let's open that. We're not opening that. Why? Because that one's Iowa. And that's just how we live. And those are the things you collect over the years, and those are the special moments and memories you have. And that's how, I guess, Heather and I celebrated, and then went to bed because it was really early. So, yeah. But we had Floyd on the bus ride home, and he was all buckled in. He was right by Mark McElroy, our police officer, who's an alum as well. So he got to be the one that protected Floyd all the way home on that bus. So if something happened on that bus and we all had to run out, Floyd's first. So just make sure that Floyd gets off this bus first.
What does putting him in his pen mean?
Put him in his pen. Pigs live in a pen. It's in the Hall of Fame trophy room. Put him in his pen. So he's in his pen. You can walk by and see it on the way up.
Talk about young players learning through experience. Devin Eastern's one of those guys. How much progress has he made?
Devin Eastern, Anthony Smith. We're talking about really young players and guys who are inexperienced too. We needed these guys to grow up. This is what we talked about. We have really experience and inexperience. And that can worry you as a coach, right? And I think Devin Eastern has grown more as a person than just a football player. If you grow as a person, you'll grow as a player. It's not the other way around. And because you've got to do the unrequired work. And you've got to, from your body to your mind to your emotions to your skill set to the fundamentals, technique, all of that. And then the confidence piece of that. And you're learning how to do that among some really good opponents. And I couldn't be more proud of him. He's really come on really strong. And he's only scratching the surface of how good he can be. And I can speak the same for a young man like Anthony Smith. But our guys came up big. You're watching a team grow up in front of your eyes. That does not promise you wins. That does not promise you anything. But it gives you a better chance. And we knew that these are going to be the challenges of this particular team. We've had teams that were older. I didn't worry about that as much. But when you aren't staying healthy at some positions and you got to have young people grow up really quickly, Devin Williams is a great example of that. Maverick Baranowski is a great example of that. Devin Williams played his best football game. One of the better linebacker performances I've seen since I've been here as a sophomore. And 2 weeks ago, I couldn't say that. So you're watching growth. And that's what I want to see from the team. We'll all be judged on wins and losses, and that's your job to judge us and say the things you say, and rightfully so. But I'm more interested in them growing as people because I know then they'll grow as players. And our guys are committed to doing that. And I'm really proud of what they've done. But again, you're only as good as what you just did, and now it's got to be better, and you got to change your best.
What's your backfield look like this week if Darius and Zach can't go?
Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, the good thing is we got some good news on some guys, so that's good. But, when you look at the depth, Jordan Newbin's going to have to be able to be ready to go. He was ready last week. He'll be fine that way. Sean Tyler. And then, we'll hopefully have one of those guys, in the mix. So, next man up.
When you look at the passing game, obviously Daniel had a big game. How do you get other guys going in the passing game, pass catcher?
Well, we did everything we could for that to happen. We got to be more consistent in catching the football. I think that's what it comes down to. And I think the guys would say the same thing in there in this room. We can make the plays. We left 5 or 6 makeable plays that they make every single day on that field. And you do that, it's different. We're 17 of 25, 16 of 25 for over 200 yards, and you're sitting there going, okay, that was a really good game. And again, if you go back and you look at our stats, it's either a throw that could be a little bit better, that much, or a catch that should have been made. And again, some people are willing to go through it. Some people are willing to go around it. I have always shown I'm willing to go through it. But we've got to be able to be better and play better at those positions and make the plays that are presented. And I know our guys will. And it's not like they ignored that. They understand that, and they take pride in their performances.
Peace of mind you have knowing you got a kicker that can put the ball through the uprights most times?
Well, he's a football player. Dragon's a football player. He's not just a kicker. The word just, I hate that word just because people say, oh, he's just. No, he's not. One, he's one of the most fascinating, interesting, unique people you will ever meet in your entire life. And I think all of you have talked to Dragon know he is, starting with his name. It's not Dragon, it's Dragon, right? And you get to know his personality and his confidence and the depth of this young man and the interest he has and having conversations with him like he's a grown man. and he's always smiling, and he's one of the hardest workers on the team, and he's a kicker. And maybe that is different other places, but here, he's a football player, and you have to be a football player to play here. Kicking, quarterback, D-line, O-line, doesn't matter. I mean, you got to be a football player, and he is that. I thought, the biggest kick he made was the one back into the wind from the same hash that he pulled it right and puts it right down the middle for the game winner. That just shows his resolve and his resiliency. But not only that, his confidence he has in himself. And you earn that confidence by the preparation and putting yourself in those game situations like he has. And he does that every day. And I get a chance to see it and have the privilege to see it every day.
Greg Harbaugh is the play caller in his first year.
I've seen a ton of growth. I mean, nothing rattles Greg. Greg, you never go over there. Greg's always got an answer. He's always got a solution. Same with Matt. We have some challenges, right, offensively, but they're always finding solutions. They're always solution-driven, and that's what I appreciate about him. And you never know from a first-time play caller what that's going to be. And I told you there's always three things I always evaluate, Is it coaching, scheme, or personnel? And I'm really pleased with where we are. And again, you can go by the stats and yards. That's one thing. I know what our issues, maybe what our areas of improvement have to be, why maybe the result is the result. But having the patience to call that game, the patience is, I think, where Greg has really grown a lot. Because that's the only way you win that game is you're patient. You cannot get bored by doing the boring. You can't get bored. And the minute you get bored and you get anxious, that's how Iowa gets you. We didn't have any turnovers. They had 3. That's the difference in the game, period.
I counted, you stopped them on the run for 0 yards 8 times, and there were 3 times for losses. Talk about the improvement in point of contact defense.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to the week before, 2 weeks before we played Michigan. We did not tackle well. We spent the bye week working on our tackling circuit, working on the form tackling, working on our players' confidence. Part of that's getting them healthy so they can go have that extra gear to go chase something down. And again, a lot of these guys with Cody being out have to play probably way before they should play. And I just said, Devin Williams was a sophomore, Maverick Baranowski, they were both elite players from our game that we voted on. And they're a freshman and a sophomore in that type of environment and that type of game. And again, I know maybe now people are like, oh man, but we're not only thinking about now, we're thinking about down the road. You're constantly doing it as a head coach. They had 11 yards rushing.
I was going to say, I had to mention the stat, which is 28 carries for 11 yards.
11 yards, and their longest rush was a quarterback sneak.
I haven't seen that stat too many times.
Me neither. But we also didn't give up a first down against Eastern Michigan in the second half. There's a lot of stats. Are there reasons, not excuses, but are there reasons why maybe at times we haven't played so well? Absolutely. And as a head coach, you have to dissect those reasons and respond to those reasons. And you have to know it, not react to what people are saying. I know what goes on inside our building, and I know the why to everything. And, you have a job to do. I have a job to do. And my job is to get the team better, period. And then they go out there and play for 3.5 hours. We'll get a result. And then my job is to respond to that result, win or lose. Whether we won that game or didn't, our job is to respond. Just like at the end of the game, we were already in 2-minute drill. I was already on the offense talking about 2-minute because our mentality was we were going to go down there and score. That was our mentality. And that's what you do. You respond.
What stands out about the Michigan State defense?
Yeah, well, first of all, they're big, they're physical, they're long, they're fast. They'll hit you, and they'll hit you hard. And they're going after the ball constantly. Their blitz package is pretty diverse, so we've got to be ready for that. But they're playing at a high level. Again, anybody who plays against Michigan, you might as well just throw that out because they're in a different planet right now, and that's a compliment because they're playing at a completely different rate than anybody they've played, including us. And but when you watch the other games of what they've done, I mean, they've for 3.5 quarters, handled a really good Rutgers team that's playing really well right now, and then ended up losing that lead. But you go back and you watch this; they're playing really good football at a lot of moments, and I'm sure they're going to want to put it all together against us.
What do you look to see improvements when it comes to coverage units?
Well, the last play, you guys haven't even asked me about that yet. Someone going to ask me about that? No, your plan's not to ask me about that?
Post game, so.
Oh, yeah, but I got a chance to watch some film. All right, so what's your question? No, let's. I'll talk about coverage all you want. Let's just talk. How many minutes I got left? Let's talk about some coverage. No, let's talk coverage. So we'll get there. But the coverage piece is, if you watch one of our players, it's gap integrity. It's just like a defensive play. Most of our punt people are defensive players. So when you punt, everybody has their lane or their gap. One of our players, as he spins, jumps inside out of his gap, and that's how he goes down the sideline. And I think our specialists have played really well this year. We've made some big-time plays in our coverage units. We've also had some mistakes. Nothing's going to be perfect. We've also played really well on offense. Times we haven't. Same on defense, and we haven't. Special teams has a limited amount of plays, so I think that's what gets covered a lot more. I'm not defending being out of your gap. That's got to be better. We have to improve in that area. And we've got to be more consistent, with our coverage units.
What are the issues on kick return right now?
Well, first of all, it's just we got to be able to stay and maintain our blocks, and then we have to be able to break a tackle here and there. But I mean, I'll take the ball to 25 at times, based on how we return it. That's the option these days. You have that. Then the kick return stuff, the ones that we didn't field are into the wind, right? I don't think we had them up, and that's my fault. We didn't probably have them up enough. I probably gave way too much credit to pregame and what was going on and where we were going to put them. I probably should have moved, Sean up a little bit more, and putting him back there in that type of game. Probably hasn't seen enough back there this year to put him in that position. So that falls on me.
After reviewing the film of that, punt return. Any other further thoughts on it?
Well, there's nothing controversial about it. Nothing controversial. Offsides is offsides. False start's a false start. A hold is a hold. Invalid fair catch signal is an invalid fair catch signal. Now, the way the rule states is invalid fair catch, so everybody thinks it's above your shoulder and it has to look like a fair catch. That's not part of the rule. The other part of the rule that was implemented years ago is the poison rule. When you poison or peter any call, you cannot advance that ball. You can point to a ball. That's fine. But with one hand, you can't shoo away people at all. You can't do that. We got called for that weeks ago, if you remember. We shooed people away from the ball, caught it, wanted to return it, and it was blown dead. The only thing that should have happened, right, and I'm not a referee, nor am I blaming anyone, is it should have been just blown dead right there. Don't even let that play happen because it doesn't exist. The play doesn't even exist because it's a poison and a peter call. And it's a dead ball. No controversy about it.
Do you think they officials, were on that, PJ, initially, or do you think
Somebody had to be.
Came about when they were first reviewing whether he stepped out of bounds?
Who said he stepped out of bounds and they were reviewing that?
That was the assumption on television, wasn't for the replay.
Well, you said assumption.
Yeah.
I was never told about out of bounds. I was told when they came over to tell me that they were reviewing whether he fair caught it or not.
You feel that was a tactic that they were trying to do to kind of lull the defense and the coverage team into sleep, I guess, and then.
Well, that's why they put the rule in to begin with, right? And when I was a player, we were walking down the stairs talking about it. You could peter, poison, take that ball and go. You can't do that anymore. One hand, two hands, right? You can't do that. And so this was the fair catch piece, and that's part of the fair catch rule. That's why I think so many people are probably confused by it because there wasn't a fair catch, correct? But if you just go like this, that's invalid. That's going to be dead, right? Anything low, get away from the ball, that's going to be dead. So.
Is that something that you have? But like Kirk today is still not letting it go. He's trying to say, well, the kid's trying to keep his balance. I mean, does that play into it? I don't want to bait you for that, but.
No, I mean, we still had to go play football. That play did not exist, right? So you still had to go play football. Next play, our players respond. We have a sack. Then we have an interception. You get pulled over for speeding. Do I know why I pulled you over? No. Well, you're going 25 miles over the speed limit. I was just keeping up with the flow of traffic. I mean, we still had to make plays. We still had to go make plays, right? And again, as I said before, I mean, we had 3 takeaways. We didn't have any turnovers. They had 11 yards rushing. They had 127 yards of total offense. We had 113 rushing yards. We were 4 or 5 in the field goal unit. We had to remove our players from the sideline.
Is it realistic to expect Cody's back for November where you can play him in 4 games and redshirt him?
Realistic.
How cool has it been to see the excitement and response from the alums after this win?
Really exciting. This is why you do it. We're coaches. I mean, we're hired to bring entertainment and pride and wins and success and joy to fans, alumni, university, state. There's a financial piece of that to the state. You're hired to do all these things, that not just coach. You're hired to do all of it. What you enjoy about it is the process of the people, making them better, making them grow, making them better football players, making them better men. But there's this massive piece to all of it. That's why you're here, and you're hired to do that for however long they allow you to do it. This isn't forever. You get your hired help to make people really, really excited about their alma mater. And I know that this is the one people have been talking about for a lot of years. And by no means is this the end of the season. I know that was a 1-0 championship season against Iowa. We were able to do it. We got a reward for it. We got a trophy for it. Floyd's home. And we look forward to sharing Floyd with our community, just like we have with the Axe, our fans, our alumni, and anybody who wants a pig in their home.
The sheer weight of Floyd, because you saw Dragon, get there first and trying to wait for the defensive lineman to get there and lift it with him. And then in the locker room, the celebrations, you saw the guy holding while you guys be on Sky. You might kind of struggle to keep it up. So what was your description of how heavy actually Floyd is?
Well, Coach Nickel, who's our strength coach, told me it's definitely heavier than 98 pounds. Now I was told it was 98 pounds. And now I'm not, again, I did not lift it, above my head or anything like that. So, but I did tell him, I said, when you go over there and you run to go get it, pregame, I said, just make sure you have other people. We have a buddy system because it is really heavy. We don't want anybody throwing their back out. But they did exactly what it was. They team lifted. And that's exactly what you wanted to be able to have. Nothing's better than watching the joy on their face after that game, though. And
kind of comfortable just holding it by himself.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, and what's great about it is you get to share that as a legacy player with his father, Jay Carroll, who played here. He gets to share that moment with his dad. We were talking about tattoos in our stretch line yesterday. I'm not sure if his mom knows this, but he was talking about finding a way to get a pig tattoo because to attach it with his dad and put it all together. I'm not sure if him and Jay have talked about that. I'm not sure if they've cleared that with mom, but not sure if he'll even go through with that. But it's just really cool how a legacy player can connect that with his father. That's a really special moment that I'm glad that Quinn and Jay have that moment together.
More for coach, or is everyone all set?
PJ, did you get, were you, when there was debris coming on the field and you took your team out there, were you looking for some sort of unsportsmanlike or anything like that at that time?
Well, in the rules, right, it only can be called unsportsmanlike on the people who are inside the arena, right? And you've got to stop the game. And that's, Tim did a really good job of that, our official, because he brought us all in, allowed us to stay in there. Then we brought him back, and it happened again, so we brought him back out. And, I don't think there's any room for it, right? So, I was pretty upset by it. My job is to protect our players, and when you can't control that situation of protecting them, you feel a little hopeless and you're looking for help. And whether we needed to go out further and move Iowa so we could go out to truly midfield where they couldn't get hit by anything. But, yeah, you fear for your players' safety, and they made that very clear. That wasn't, that wasn't on their mind. So I had to be able to move our players. And I know that Mark Coyle and Commissioner Petiti will handle that. And I know they've already been in talks with that. But that's above me for sure. My responsibility is our players.
With the excitement of this one, how do you do your best to turn the page and not get too stuck on
I think you know me. Listen, they're kids. You got to do everything you can. But listen, it was the tale of two cities. What's the opening line of A Tale of Two Cities? It was the best of times, it's the worst of times. This team's seen both in 7 games. Okay, so this isn't about humbling anybody. Our guys understand, right, how you can get beat by anybody and you can beat anybody. And they're learning as they go. They know they came in yesterday ready to work. And It was enjoyed, and that's why we celebrate the way we do. If we don't celebrate the way we do, and we just kind of think of it, yeah, it's just a game. I get it. It's just a win. That's why it doesn't matter who we celebrate that win, because I want them to truly enjoy it. So when we get to Monday, they can move on. And I think our guys do a really good job of that. And we got a heck of a team coming in here. We got to do a really good job of preparing and putting together a really good game plan. All right, thank you. Yeah, row the boat, Sky Mile, go Gophers. Thanks.
Well, that Gopher defensive game plan certainly includes number 27, big-time player making big-time plays. He is one of the best defensive backs, not just in the Big Ten, in the entire country. Tyler Nubin, your Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week, helping the Gophers bring Floyd back to the Twin Cities for the first time in just about a decade. Not a great weekend for Michigan State. As a matter of fact, it's been a really tough run for Harlon Barnett since he took over as the interim head coach after the dismissal of Mel Tucker. And not much was expected in terms of the possibility of beating Michigan on Saturday night. Certainly did not expect the whitewash that took place as the Wolverines knock off the Spartans 49-0 in East Lansing. Where exactly does Michigan State go from here? For that answer, we go to East Lansing and check in with Harlon Barnett.
And wasn't very nice, but we have moved on. 24-hour rule has passed, and we're focused on Minnesota. I'm open for questions.
I was just wondering what the response was from the guys in practice today. You've said all along during this that they've been, good about bouncing back, but obviously Saturday's game was a little bit different in the results. Just how you think they handled it.
It was. Once again, they came out there and you guys may think I'm just losing my mind or something, but they come out and they're ready to go. They're focused on the next deal. They're communicating, and they're doing what we're asking them to do. So that's a positive. It's a positive, and so we got to keep going.
H, what'd you learn from the film that you didn't know Saturday night? I hate to keep asking this, but have you had any more guys come in and say they're done?
So the first, what did we learn from the film that we didn't know? They did what they did. To be honest with you, they didn't change up much. They were who we thought they were, and our guys, some of our guys, I think the moment might have been big for us, for some of us, because we were young in some areas, and so it was another learning experience. We already had one with Washington playing a top 10 team. You would think we have learned a little bit more than what we have, but it's all a part of the experience, and they're getting better. As far as your portal question, there may be one guy that hops in that came up and met with me today, and that young man is Simeon Barrow, and it wasn't like a shock. We've been having discussions with him over the last several weeks, and he's been upfront and honest with us the whole time. So he's the young man that looking to possibly hop in there.
Caton's game, first drive you got moving and the turnover on downs, but what happened with the rest of his game that he was unable to kind of move the ball? And do you see any potential for Sam moving in and getting more snaps moving forward?
Good question. First of all, Caton, when we watch the quarterback play, you got to watch everything and make sure everything is what you're really seeing. You know what I mean? That it's not always all just on the quarterback, I would say. That was the second game. He played really, really good in the Rutgers game, I think, and then, not quite as well this last game, but, it's not always all on him. He needs his teammates to step up and do their jobs as well. And so he's still our guy. Is there opportunity for Sam? Sure, there's opportunities for Sam. He's a good player. And we're going to continue to evaluate it and look at it throughout the course of this week and just see where that goes. But Caton is still the starting quarterback.
Harlan, I wanted to ask you about Sam too. Has he sort of indicated, or is there the assumption like he's good to play throughout? Just with the redshirt rule and him, does that have to be on the top of your mind whenever you throw him in, or has he said I'm good to play out the year, or where do you sort of?
Good question. That's something we haven't discussed, he and I. But I think he is. The young man just loves to play football, and so I haven't heard anything where he's thinking about redshirting or anything like that. I was talking to the team last week, and I was like, man, a lot of you guys cracked me up with the redshirt thing because a lot of you guys don't even like school. So why are you gonna add another year of school? Like it doesn't make sense. Like what are y'all saying? So and a lot of guys want to go to the league in 3 years and all this stuff. So you're talking about adding a red shirt. You're like, where is this coming from? So, but he hasn't said it. I haven't heard either way with him. Maybe I need to talk to him about it. But I know that he loves to play the game of football.
So what did you see from him in his couple series, and does he have any traits or anything, I guess, that stand out to you different from Caden or anything like that?
Well, I've mentioned before that Sam is very, very confident. He doesn't lack for confidence, and you love that about him. You know, not that the other guys aren't, but he's a confident young man, believes in his abilities. As you can see, he can run it, he can throw it, and a really good football player. So we'll see where that leads.
I had one last thing. I just when you mentioned the conversations with Simeon, so anything you can share about that? I guess because you weren't surprised. So what sort of was he saying to sort of lay the groundwork? I guess, or what? Where were his thoughts? I guess on what went into all this. If he was sort of bringing it up previously.
I got you. I like to keep the private conversations. That's okay.
So going into Minnesota, obviously a little bit different team than last year, but what did you learn from the way that game transpired a year ago?
Well, they're good. They can run the football. RPOs offer the run action, so that was their game, especially last year versus us. And they're still trying to do it again this year, although they have a different quarterback. We're gonna defensively. I'm coming from a defensive perspective against their offense. You're gonna see a lot of the same things. Got a good running game, good quarterbacks and receivers that understand the whole system. And then on defense, they're gonna crowd the line of scrimmage and force you to throw the ball, and try to stop the run. So good team, well coached team, and Coach Fleck's been there for a while, and he has his system in place, and they know what he wants, and they try to get it done.
Two things, Harlon. First of all, on Saturday, and I'll put it to bed, did it catch your attention at all that Michigan elected not to take a knee and scored another touchdown with 8 seconds left?
I told our guys on the headsets, I say, they're trying to score. I said that multiple plays. They're not, I'm not surprised. Not at all.
Will you remember it?
Definitely. I always remember it. I'll remember everything about that game.
You've talked about how your team has responded. How about Harlon Barnett? This is 5 in a row. You've had a couple of gut-wrenching losses, and now this. I see you're still standing, but how are you holding up?
Thank you, Fred, for asking. I'm holding up. The 24-hour rule, I try to hold to that. Sometimes it may go to 28, 29, but I'm good today. I'm good. I get a lot of people asking me that. I'm good. I'm one of those people, man, that, to just keep fighting. That's all I know. I'll never give up, And so I'm going to keep coming. You have to kill me to stop me. So that's the only way I look at it, and that's how I try to get our team to be. And we're going to keep coming back, bouncing back, and giving everything that we got. It's not easy because I hate losing. But it's a process that we're currently going through. No excuses. And we're going to go out there and try to get a win against Minnesota this weekend.
Is it tough for your staff, too, when they don't know their futures beyond the next 5 weeks?
I'm sure it is for them and their families. It depends. From my personal perspective, it's your source. So I know who my source is. So I never really get too stressed out about anything like that. Because he's taken care of me so long for so many years and so through so many things that, man, God off the chain. So that's how I personally approach it. I can't speak for everybody, but I know that he will cover us all. I'm praying for everybody and their families on our staff always, and that he continues to provide and protect for each one of them.
Harlon, there's no doubt that this team has fight, and statistically on the road, you guys lost by 10 at Iowa, even though the game was a little bit closer than that, and 3 by Rutgers when you guys lost at Rutgers. So you got another opportunity coming up this weekend. What's the message for that going into that? And is there any factors going on the road? What are you telling your team going into this game and that when you're knocking on the door for a win?
Well, we still have to finish. I'm going to stick with the same thing. I'm going to still say discipline, everybody doing their job, And part of doing your job is pre-snap communication, post-snap communication, all of that. And then we talk about special teams, maximum effort, offense, score, defense, 3-and-out takeaway, and then finish. We have to finish. And so we'll continue to pound that into them. They understand it. They just have to do it. We have to do it. And we just have to keep pounding it and pounding it and pounding it till we actually get it done. So that's the message.
Harlon, not to keep harping about Simeon, but do you expect him to is there a timeline for him to make a decision about the portal, and do you expect him to be available on Saturday?
I think he may be gone. I think he's going to jump in personally, and that's what it's going to be. Wish him nothing but the best.
Okay. And then, you were here in 2016 when everything kind of slid. Is there anything you remember about that losing streak that you can take and apply here? That's something that different situations, but still.
That was tough, man. That was really tough because we couldn't figure out totally like what is going on. It felt like that, and it does feel like this a little bit right now. Like what is going on? What's happening? But all you can do is keep trying to get better. I said to the coaching staff this morning, let's just keep coaching these guys up, making them better. Let's improve and get better week to week. And then we'll probably start seeing the results that we're looking for if we just keep coaching them up, don't give up, keep fighting, keep pushing.
Harlon, over here. There was a game, you were on the staff, and I think it was 2012 at Minnesota, that Mark D'Antonio used to talk about what an important character game that was the year before the Rose Bowl. Kind of off the radar, end of the year, guys really decided they wanted to play. And I'm wondering, is this sort of last week sort of a season within a season against Michigan? Is this sort of the week where the character gets tested and sort of revealing of who you are in that capacity?
It really is, Graham. I believe that, absolutely. This game is a game where the guys that are out there playing for us, they are Spartans. They want to be here and give everything that they have. And so, kudos to these guys that are currently with us, they're still fighting and pushing through and showing great resilience. So, yes, this is a game that will, in a lot of ways, define this 2023 season, this game coming up.
Wondering about the running game. Nathan struggled to get on track. Noticed that Jalen wasn't in there very much. Between Jalen and Jaron, I guess kind of how you're viewing those two behind them?
Right. Jalen is probably going to be done for the rest of the year. I'm not going to give specifics, but you saw him come off the field, and we wish nothing but the best for him, obviously, in his healing. And it was good to see Jaron Mangum out there running hard and big body, change up back compared to Nate. So it was encouraging to see him out there running the football.
I kind of want to go back to Graham's question, and obviously a coach can only do so much to keep the guys together, but who are some of the players that have really stepped up and been vocal in the locker room and just trying to keep this season intact despite everything that's happened up to this point?
Absolutely. Our leaders have been Trey Mosley, J.D. Duplain, Nick Samac, those guys. Derek Harmon has been really good, speaking up. Angelo Gross in so many ways. Even though Cal Holiday doesn't say a whole lot, but he does command respect around the guys. And so those guys are doing a good job at keeping us together and pushing us forward.
Aaron, obviously a big recruiting weekend for you guys on Saturday, a lot of prospects on campus. I was wondering how, given the obvious challenge of the situation, how you thought that went, and with your one kind of big push for this class.
It was good pregame. It was good to see all those guys and seeing that they were here and showing genuine interest in Michigan State. And so that was really good. Didn't get a chance to see a lot of them afterwards, obviously. It's just obviously, but they know I'm not trying to go in that locker room now, but at the same time, you can look at it as a recruit, like there's opportunity for me to go there and help. And so, that's the way that I try to look at it concerning the recruiting. But it was good to see all those guys here.
when you play two teams in a row that seem like there's some similarities, at least offensively, with like tight ends and physicality running the football. Is there a benefit from some carryover from maybe some things that you emphasized last week that will still be in place this week for a team that's trying to get back on track? Is that a benefit?
Absolutely, that is a benefit. You don't have many changes in the plan. You just have to execute the plan better, and wrap and squeeze when you're tackling, run through contact, wrap and squeeze. And so we're going to have to do that because they do a good job of running the football and doing things like that. They're holding up well. They're doing a good job, and we try to take care of them throughout the course of the week. They're veterans now. Even Jordan Hall is starting to become like a veteran a little bit. But we try to take as much pounding off of them as possible, especially during this time of the year. And so they're smart. They understand. They're still getting reps out there and doing a good job for us. So keep praying for health.
You mentioned about Nick being a leader. I don't know if you saw the video of him giving a salute to the crowd with two fingers. Not quite. But, between him and Spencer, I mean, there's obvious frustration there. I guess first, have you addressed any of the frustration with those guys and others? And I don't know with Spencer's penalty, does he have to miss a half? Is that not like targeting for the flagrant, or is it because it happened in the second half, or is that a situation where he'll be eligible right away?
Haven't heard either way yet, to be honest with you. And like you said, not that it's an excuse, because it's not. We got to be able to keep our cool. We have talked about keeping your cool, and when you get frustrated, because that's life. That's going to happen in life, and you can't get all emotional. You can't operate off of emotions. And so that was a life lesson for those guys, and I believe that they received it.
H, some things you can control, some things you can't, but it's very fine line, thin margin for error. With the 3 penalties in the 2 plays back to back, you tell your guys that there's no way you can win any game with that.
No question. It was like 40 yards, so yeah, we cannot. They understand that. Like I said I think it was Saturday after the game, we had 11 versus Washington, if I'm not mistaken, and they had another 11 versus these guys, and both top 10 teams. You can't do that. You cannot do that. You got to be able to rise to the occasion and play disciplined football, physical and disciplined. That's what we talked about, being disciplined and physical throughout the entire game, and we just didn't do it. No excuses. We have to get better at it. Got to get better at it.
Do you know what's causing that? Are guys trying to do too much? Just frustrations?
Probably trying to do too much. The game was a big game, and both those were, and I think I don't know. I hate to try to guess and figure out what those guys were thinking and get in their heads, but I do know, just as a former player, that when you have these situations, you live for these situations. This is why you do what you do. You don't come here to play Little Sisters of the Poor, right? You come here to play in games like this past weekend in the Washington game. And so when those times come, it should bring a smile on your face, enthusiasm, excitement, passion, all of that. And then being able to play a smart, physical, tough, disciplined football game. That's what you should be able to play. And so our guys are learning. We're young in some areas, and hopefully all this experience will pay off in the future.
You've had some attrition at the defensive tackle position now with Simeon out. Can you talk about what's left and how you go against this physical run team? Who do you have there at second string, and what's that looking like depth-wise?
Yep. We still have, Derek Harmon. We still have Jalen Sammy, Maverick Hansen, and those guys. And then, Ken Talley has to go in there. We can bring him in there. So we have those guys still available, and we'll use what we have at our disposal. They'll go in there and grind and fight and do whatever they need to do to help us succeed.
really haven't seen as much action in the transfer portal coming from East Lansing as perhaps we expected, with the ability for players to transfer without penalty after Mel Tucker's dismissal. Harlon Barnett did say that Simeon Barrow, defensive tackle, has informed him that he will step away and enter the transfer portal looking to play elsewhere. It did not look good for a long time for Wisconsin. Braden Locke getting the start after the injury prior week to Tanner Mordecai. Locke and Wisconsin outscored Illinois 18-0 in the fourth quarter. It was a big fella touchdown at the end that eventually gave the Badgers an all-important win. Coupled with Iowa's loss, Luke Fickell's team right back in the mix to potentially win the West and head to Indianapolis. Of course, it is always easier said than done, especially when your next game is against one of the best teams in the country, as Ohio State comes to Madison this Saturday. Let's take you now to Madtown. Here is Luke Fickell.
Obviously great. A little different with the way you feel at the victory. Obviously an incredible comeback. I think probably the best thing about the game is when you have a kind of a comeback like that. Not that we played well. I think when it all's said and done, when you watch it, which I did not do until Sunday. A lot of people watch them on the planes on the way home, and I have learned as a head coach, since I'm not actually grading it officially every play of every player, I tend not to watch it because there's a lot of things that dwell in my head and the things we could have done a lot better, but to find a way to try to enjoy that. So, but the unique thing about college football and pretty much all of football, like, you don't have a whole lot of time to enjoy some of those things, right? You get about 17 hours. By the time you get home, it's time to go to bed, wake up the next morning, and move forward. But the great thing about it is, for us as a particular, as a program, that we hadn't finished really kind of a game or been in a situation like that. And I said it afterwards to our players. I think I said it in the media that was the first time I'd seen something different from our team. And I just mean that, it's that will, it's that passion, it's that no panic, which we have done. I thought we have done a pretty decent job, even in the Iowa game, where we didn't panic. We didn't change a demeanor on the sideline when things didn't go well, but we also didn't find a way to finish. And for the first time since, in 9 or 10 months, I saw a difference in that final, not just drive, but that final quarter of a lot of things, where I saw a different will, I saw a different passion, I saw a different intensity that I know was in there, because we all have it. It's just sometimes hard to find in the midst of, chaos, in the midst of, so many different people, because in football it takes a lot of different ones. So that was probably, to me, more exciting than the win itself, was to see how our guys handled it, how they came back, and to show that will and that passion that I needed to see from us.
Might as well start off with the obligatory Ohio State question. You've been through this before. I know it's different. You went to Columbus and played a game when you were at Cincinnati. Did you learn anything from that experience that would be helpful this week?
We didn't do well. We went to Columbus and played when I was at Akron as well. We didn't do well. So I don't know that there's different things you learn from all that. I know for me, the most important thing, or the first thing to start off with, is it's not about me. I know we have some guys on our staff, myself included, that have some obvious history there, whether they went to school there or played there. But that's not what it's about. And for me, I don't want to get too much into it, but that'll be something that's always stuck in the back of my head. We've asked, hey, can you do a report or do an interview with a guy from Columbus, or, hey, the Big Ten Network. I'm like, no, let's put a player on. Have him do a player. It's about the players. It's about our team. It's about our program. It's about the journey that we're on and the process that we're in, not the specifics of, hey, you went to school there. Hey, you played there. Hey, you got guys on your staff from there. When the ball's kicked off, that'll have absolutely no effect on anything that happens on that field. And so we try to just focus on the things that are going to have the greatest effect on Saturday night.
Luke, on the heels of that, I have a question for you about you being a player at Ohio State, so bear with me. It's a two-part question. I just wanted to ask, when you look back at yourself as a player there, what do you think made you successful as a player at Ohio State? And secondly, what do you think you learned about yourself as a player there that you've carried forward with you?
Who said I was successful as a player?
Well, you started 50 games.
You're just
so
assuming that there was a lot of really good players around me, and it made me realize that in this sport in particular, that if you don't have great people around you, you're going to struggle. And if you're average and you got really good players around you, find your role, do it to the best of your ability, and you will help not just yourself but your team as well. And I think for me, as a player playing this game, regardless of where you play at, you know, if it comes really easy for you and you're always the best, you learn some things, but I don't think you learn as much. And just like last week, in times of, you know, I'd say chaos or stress, or, you know, when you're in a position where it's not your favor, you know, I would say is kind of the way I was as a college football player. Maybe not the biggest, the fastest, the strongest, but you find ways to battle through struggles. And you really figure out if this is something that you're passionate about. And it's whether it's the game, whether it's the competition, whether it's, you know, finding a way to be better than somebody that's more talented than you. So there's a lot of things that we all figure out from playing this game, especially playing this game at a level like this in the Big Ten. I don't know that I would be any different than anybody else that, you know, Jack Bicknell played at Boston College. There's a lot of things I'm sure he learned as a undersized offensive lineman, center, playing that he takes on as, you know, that helps him to be a better coach today. And so a lot of those things, I think, but, you know, there's an expectation. I think when I left there as a player and as a coach, I felt like no matter where I went, the difference was an expectation. And sometimes you make yourself better just because of the expectations that are around you, that you have to raise your level. And so 2 years ago, I think we had a motto at Cincinnati, high tides rise all ships, and it was more so of that, trying to get to that mentality of, hey, when you start to have those things, there's some pressure and there's some stress on it, but it makes everything around you better. And so outside of maybe what others learned from their experiences, being at a place that was pretty successful, not being a good player or anything, but being on a program that's successful, I think you learn a lot.
Luke, you talked about the challenge of guys leading from the sideline, like Tanner Mordecai. TV copy showed him quite a bit, cheering guys on. How do you think he kind of approached that and handled it in the first week here?
I thought, I mean, again, I knew he would do a great job of it. I was curious as to what kind of a vocal guy he would be, you know, how he would be for Braden, meaning how much would Braden rely upon him, you know, and he was impressive. I mean, demeanor, body language, all those things, I would have expected nothing different. And it's crazy because we really do have a bunch of those guys. Marty Strye is a guy that's the same way. He plays on special teams, but yet you're out there in the offensive huddle, and who do you hear screaming and hollering in the background? You're out there in the defensive huddle, which he's not probably going on the field, but who do you hear screaming and hollering? And so I think those things are contagious. You know, we had Ches with us this past weekend, which he can't be up there in those positions because he can't protect himself, so we got him back behind the bench. But just his presence on a Friday night, being there on the sidelines, in the locker, I think those are things that kind of remind our guys, especially in the midst of some tough situations, that this is a brotherhood and they're not in it by themselves.
Luke, you mentioned that the game is about the players. And there's a bunch of, you weren't here last year, but there's a bunch of players on this team who went to Columbus and left there thinking there was a big gap between the two programs at the time because of the way the game played out. What's the message you might send to these guys this week about what opportunities they have, not only to win a game that you need to win for perhaps a division championship, but also going against one of the best teams in the Big Ten, if not the country?
Closing the gap. I think that we're always looking for those gaps in whatever it is, whether you're an individual, you know, you're a team, you're an offense, you're always trying to close the gaps. If you're the guy at the very top, then you're trying to make sure you don't allow them to close the gaps. And so we can look back at last year, and last year is last year. And like I said, once the ball's kicked off, it'll have not a whole lot of bearing, hopefully, other than things that happen within your mind. But you got to find ways to close the gaps. And, you know, if we don't use what happened last year as a learning lesson, whether we were here or not, then we wouldn't be doing our job, you know, as coaches and as players as well. And so finding ways to continue to close the gaps. There's gaps in everything, right? Every week there's a gap in something, right? Whether they've got better this than you or you've got better that. So I think for anything, you can really measure yourself and find out where you are as an individual, as a program, and as a team. But we've got to continue to close gaps. And the best teams don't always win games, right? The most talented teams don't always win games. I mean, flip on college football every Saturday. It's crazy, how things happen. And, so regardless of what that is, it's about the preparation. It's about figuring out where you got to close some gaps. And then ultimately, can you play loose? Can you play fast? And can you still play aggressive no matter who it is that you're playing against?
Luke, under Ryan's day, Ohio State's typically had a really dynamic offense, but this year they seem to be winning games more so with their defense. I'm just curious what your impressions of this team are so far.
They're a team. I think that they find ways, whatever they have to do to be successful. Again, they've got a young quarterback. They've got a first-year starter. Well, maybe I don't even know. I haven't completely followed them the last 4 or 5 years, but I know that they've had a couple first-round draft picks at quarterback, and obviously that can make things a little bit different. So I'm sure that right now they're playing a little bit more to their strengths, and with a younger quarterback, they probably aren't doing quite as much. Does that mean you're relying upon your defense? Maybe you are. Maybe they are. I think more talented than maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Even when we played them. But I think nonetheless, you see the complete team. You see them be able to play together, offense, defense, and special teams, regardless of if they got a first-round draft pick quarterback right now and they're scoring 55 points a game. It's ultimately about winning, and you can see it whether it's you watch the offense or the defense or even the special teams.
Question about Braden. I know it's a small sample size, but you've been around young players, you've been around young quarterbacks. The comeback in the second half against Illinois, his first win as a starting quarterback in college football, what can that do for him, for his development, for his confidence moving forward?
All those things are great. I think that more than anything, experience is critical, right? Your ability to take the experiences that you get and move forward are really important, and maturity shows in that. And I would say that I don't know if it was 30 snaps in the Iowa game that he had. His ability to move forward and mature from those 30 snaps, I thought really showed on Saturday. Now, was it perfect? No, I didn't say that. But his ability to whatever happened on last Saturday to not have the same things happen this past Saturday, I think is where he shows his greatest progression. Iowa being the very first time he was in there truly in college football, other than I think maybe one throw his freshman year. And to see how he took that and moved forward into this past week, it's not just about how he finished the game. Obviously, that builds confidence, and not just in him, because people are different, right? Some people have a true internal confidence, and you never really know whether it's real or it's fake sometimes until guys are actually out there playing. And he showed me that internal confidence is real, but it also, the people around you get better when they have more confidence in you as well. So him to be able to prove that seeing is believing, I think helps not just him, but the people that are around him as well.
How do you feel about just the state of where your offense is right now at this point in the season? How much can that fourth quarter comeback kind of give you all confidence going into what's, I imagine, going to be the toughest test?
Yeah, I think the other thing about last week is the conditions that were there were different. So when you go into a game and you have to all of a sudden manage some things a bit differently, I think that you got to look at that as, okay, do we handle this the right way? So whether it's building confidence in the offense, then, hey, we can move the ball, we can score when we have to. I think that understanding that we can manage things that we need to manage, I think give all of us, regardless of if it's Braden in there at quarterback or whoever, I think that gives you some confidence at recognizing, especially in this league, that when you move around the country, you're going to face some different things. But I still think I said it to our guys Sunday after practice that we've got to find a way to make sure these guys that are what we would say the 2s or the 1Bs step up a little bit more right now. This is the second half. We're going into the second half of the season, and we're not going to be able to play 72 snaps with Braylon Allen at tailback. He did an unbelievable job, and I think he only missed, maybe he was out for 8 to 10 plays. You can't continue to do that. C.J. Getz played 72 snaps on defense. We can't continue to do that as we continue to move forward in the last second half of the season. And so we've got to have other guys that have to step up. They're not young anymore. They whatever experience they have, they got to prove a lot to all of us so that on Saturday night or the following Saturday that we can put them, we can use them, and we can continue to grow what we're doing on both sides of the ball.
Luke, you were talking about closing gaps before. I would think one of the ways to do that is eliminate unforced errors as much as possible. There were some the other night. I mean, false starts and maybe a couple blown assignments on defense. I guess my question is, how do you teach discipline? Like, how do you? I know it's important to you, so how do you teach
Discipline
it?
is a gift. It's not a discipline is a gift, and so everything that we do within the program has to do with discipline. So it's not something that's just taught. It's something that, over time continues to grow. It's a skill, and so I don't know if we had as many false starts. We didn't have as many critical false starts. I think the third play of the game we had a false start. I don't think we had any other ones, but obviously there's some other mistakes across the board. We dropped a field goal snap that cost us 3 points, or and at least an opportunity to kick the field goal. We had plenty of mistakes. Don't get me wrong. We talk about discipline as a core culture of our program. Yet, I said on Sunday as we recapped the game, the most important thing for the victory last week was about playing disciplined, and I said we did not do that. So we might have corrected in some ways. I thought the offensive line did a better job in those situations where it was 3rd and short, where we know every time guys are going to move on us because we put it on film. We did a better job there, but we didn't play as disciplined. We still had a penalty in the special teams. We dropped the snap and didn't give us a chance to kick a field goal. There's some situations there that we have to do and continue to do a better job. It's like the turnovers. You got to emphasize it. You got to continue to make sure you understand it's a skill, and a skill that we've got to get a lot better at. But there are some areas where I thought we did a better job at that.
I know you can't talk about specific recruits or commits, but with a game like Saturday night prime time underneath the lights of Camp Randall Stadium, just what can a game like this against a top 5 team with the atmosphere, what can it do for recruiting, and how do you prepare for the atmosphere like this?
Well, we'll let those guys prepare. We got a group of guys that's where they focus, and we all know. I mean, the game day experience is critical, and in developing not just a relationship, I think, but understand guys to understand what it's like when they can be on those campuses, and so this is a great opportunity for us. Obviously, we know that it'll be electric environment and atmosphere and things like that. We got to do our part to make it sustainable, throughout the entire game. But it'll be a big part of what it is that Saturday is. Now, when kickoff goes, that'll have no bearing on it. But I've already met with the recruiting guys, and there's some other things being a later game that we'll spend a lot more time doing. And if we can get guys to campus a little bit earlier, but I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to showcase what it is that we've got here. Not just on the football field, but our ability to create an environment and an atmosphere that you'd want to be a part of, whether you're a student or you're going to be a player.
Luke, you've been asked before about what you saw in Will Pauling when the two of you were at Cincinnati together, but what is he doing right now that's allowing him to be as successful as he is in this offense?
I think, it's as simple as saying, I think he's coming a little bit more into his own. We said on Sunday when he was one of the players of the game on offense, that was his first touchdown catch in college. And sometimes you probably don't recognize that. He's had a bunch of targets. He's had a bunch of catches this year. He's a guy that played last year, obviously at Cincinnati, and you don't recognize and realize he hadn't had a touchdown yet. So I think one of the things that I've noticed as much as anything is a little bit better stamina endurance. He doesn't play every snap. We don't want him to play every snap. Him and Skyler roll a lot. But the snaps that he is in there, he's on special teams. You see him down the stretch being able to maintain that level a lot greater. And so he's still a young guy. I think the sky's the limit. He's getting better and better and better. But to me, one of the number one things he's done is his ability to, have endurance to be able to play as well as he can, especially later in the games. And that's what showed, I think, that obviously the fourth quarter, the second half in particular, because it's not like we're going to take him off the punt team. It's not like we're going to take him off of some of the special teams, because that's a big part of what we're doing too. And we talked about it. We've got to be able to have the endurance, especially in the second half of the year, that you're at your best in the fourth quarter, whatever that means, whether, Chimere Dike, who played 71 snaps. That's not what I envision. He can do it, but I don't know that we're going to be at our best if that's what we have to continue to do.
Luke, you mentioned a couple weeks ago the guard rotation that you've kind of found there, and it didn't seem like Trey Weddy got in on Saturday. Was that a injury sickness situation, or what did you kind of see there? Okay.
No, it was kind of the situation of the game. That I kind of I said it to Coach before the game started. I said I don't want to switch this right away. I want to see if we can get into a groove. However you're going to start it, let's at least let him get 3 series And then in the midst of the weather and things like that, I think we kind of stuck with it. The guys felt like they were doing a good job up front. Again, not something that you want to come out of the game and say, okay, these guys played 72 snaps, this guy played none. I don't know that that's where we want to live. So we've got to be able to find that balance and rotation, but not also, mess up the chemistry, especially up there in the front, because to me, that's the most unique position in all, right? We can roll D linemen all over the place, but it's a little different up front in the midst of a game, especially one that's looks like it's going to be as tight as that one was in the situation.
Luke, regarding the final play, are you the type of coach who wants to hang on to that momentum and call back to it throughout the week, or are you the type of guy who kind of wants to wipe the slate clean new week, or is there a balance in that?
I think there's a balance. Momentum is momentum, energy is energy, and when you have it, you got to find a way to bottle it and keep it. And if that means you got to refer to it a little bit more, you refer to it a little bit more. I mean, throw the same play on Thursday at practice when everybody's watching, or Friday when we do our little script, just to have some fun with it and to have guys cheer and remember those feelings. Yeah, I think you're always trying to find ways to hold on to that energy and momentum. They're 18 to 22-year-olds, right? There's a million different distractions, and anything that you got that brings them back to those moments and what it's like to be able to find a way to be successful, I think are really key and critical. Now, will we do it every day? I'm not saying that. But I think that, you got to find ways to, keep your guys loose, keep them excited about what they're doing, but also don't forget, what that feeling is really like.
Coach, thank you. Thanks. One topic being discussed at length both in and outside the Big Ten, the gap between the Big Ten East and the Big Ten West. Now, Fickell admits teams are always trying to close gaps, and this week's game against Ohio State certainly another opportunity to do exactly that. But Fickell does add, in college football, the best team on paper in this match, top 5 Ohio State, doesn't always win. Purdue has had some time off to think about that 41-7 loss to Ohio State last time out. As a matter of fact, Ryan Walters' team has dropped 2 in a row, losing by 6 to Iowa the previous week. Now Purdue set to head on the road back-to-back Saturdays, first to Lincoln and then to Ann Arbor. We take you to West Lafayette. Here is Ryan Walters.
Obviously, it's been a while now since you played. Just how valuable was the bye week to reassess where this team is and get healthy?
Yeah, hugely important, much needed, physically and mentally, just to sort of get some time to, for the players' perspective, I'll just kind of take you through the week. We had Monday off. Tuesday, Wednesday was straight rehab, recovery, rejuvenation from a physical standpoint for the guys that have done most of the playing. And we practiced the sort of non-travel to guys that are in backup roles that travel but haven't played a whole lot. I got to scrimmage at the end of those practices and see the guys, which was good, exciting. By that time of the schedule and practice, we had our older guys out at practice to cheer them on, and energy was awesome. Had a more of a jog through tempo practice on Thursday for the older guys to get some early down Nebraska intro, and then as a staff we were out on the road recruiting. Gave the players Friday and Saturday off. Again, just to relax, watch some football. And come back, rejuvenated, excited for the next 5 games. And so Sunday had a really, really good practice. The energy was awesome. The buy-in is exactly what you want it to be. And the guys that were dinged up are starting to look like themselves. Obviously, the guys that are done for the year. That's not changing. But guys that were dealing with knick-knack injuries and were sort of on the day-to-day plan, we're able to practice and practice at a high level.
Looks like it was a valuable week recruiting-wise too. So obviously you talk about the buy-in of this team, but it's also the buy-in of the guys you're selling the future of this program to.
Yeah, we're really excited about the class that we've put together, and even getting into that 25 class. We're excited about the guys that we've targeted and that we've gotten committed to us. And what's exciting for me is to see those guys playing well. All the guys that are currently committed are playing at a high level in their senior season, and so definitely looking forward to the future. But we're really looking forward to these last 5 games with this current roster.
You know about the environment at Nebraska. What are these guys in store for on Saturday going to that place?
Yeah, 90,000 plus that are Sea of Red, right? My history with Nebraska started at a very young age. I obviously grew up a fan of Colorado. My dad playing there, and that was like the hated rivalry, right? And so you remove yourself from that as a coach, and the first time I got to play against Nebraska again was in 2021. My first season in Illinois, and I just remember them running out of the tunnel at in Champaign, and the feelings come back, right? It's like, man, I really can't stand that color. Don't like that end on the helmet. And so definitely this has been a big week, and we've explained to the guys just how crazy it gets out there. They are diehard fans, win, lose, or draw. And so we're looking forward to a great venue to play a competitive and tough football game.
Last thing for me is Ben Farrell's a guy that came from a small college and obviously a different level of competition. How has he progressed and adapted to what he's faced this year versus where he came from?
Yeah, thank God we got him, right? He's obviously big and athletic, and he's really bought into the culture and has, like you said, has progressed, throughout the course of the season. And I think Coach Johnson's done a great job of mentoring him and getting him to play at a high level. And so we're definitely glad that we got him, and he's actually been playing well for us in the times that he's been in there.
Ryan, you talked a little bit about the young guys getting a chance to do some scrimmage work. Any names for guys that may have stood out during those sessions?
Yeah, Ryan Braun did really well. We made him live, which typically you don't do with quarterbacks, right? But he's a big physical guy, and I knew he would be open to that and accept that challenge. George Byrne also got some scrimmage reps, and as a result, I think we'll get more playing time just to see what he can do in live situations with his frame and his speed, athleticism. And defensively, Drake Carlson stood out. He played well. Some of those younger guys in the secondary, Zion Steptoe, who we moved from receiver to corner, is improving, and really looking forward to his progress and his future at that position. I think it fits him, fits his style, fits his personality, and what we do schematically, I feel like he can accomplish. So definitely beneficial to see those young guys and go to work, and beneficial for the guys that we are counting on to make plays for us to get them back healthy and excited both physically and mentally.
Just some of the issues Nebraska's quarterback poses. A big guy, likes to run it. Again, you guys have had some issues dealing with those type of running quarterbacks. Just kind of talk about him a little bit and what he brings to the table.
Yeah, like you just hit it on the head. He's big, physical. Nebraska, they make you play with all 11, right? And so we will definitely have to adjust the way we play and adjust our game plan a little bit. They run a ton of different run schemes and both zone and gap schemes. They create extra gaps. Their window dressing is for a purpose usually, and you got to be able to account, like I said, for all 11. So definitely excited that we had a week to prepare as a staff, and excited for the 2 bonus practices. Really, I think those will be beneficial for our guys, especially in the run fits. But this is going to be a tough and physical game, and I think we'll be as healthy as we possibly can be at this point of the season going into Saturday, which makes me feel good.
Can you talk a little bit about the kicking situation, maybe how you're going to handle that this week?
Freehill is healthy, and so if he's healthy and ready to go, he'll be our kicker.
And Hudson Card, obviously, time off helped him. Do you think he's about as healthy as he's been all season coming into Saturday?
Yeah, Hud looked like himself yesterday for the first time since that second or third series at Illinois. So he's back with the bounce in his step. Ball's coming out of his hands, with some velocity, and it's pretty when it's in the air. And so also saw him run around a little bit, which was exciting, and It just feels like he's back to himself, and so that will hopefully bode well for us.
Do you feel any urgency, Ryan? I mean, 5 games left.
Absolutely. You know, we are in playoff mode right now. You know, definitely set the tone and the temperament in our team meeting on Sunday. And as a result, guys went to work. Like that was as energetic, as fast a practice as we've had since I've been here. And so I think our mindset is in the right place. And, you know, I've been honest and open with them about exactly what needs to happen these last 5 games and what we're capable of doing. And so, you know, because of that, everybody's holding each other accountable to those standards. And I'm excited to see what that looks like now down the stretch of these last 5 weeks.
What have you seen with Matt Rhule taking over Nebraska and kind of the new identity he's trying to make?
Yeah, you know, my history with Coach Rhule goes back to his Temple days. When I was at Memphis, we were able to play them, and you know, you just see his teams. They are tough. They're physical. They're smart. They don't beat themselves, and that's exactly what you see on tape. You know, he's like I said, they make you play with all 11 on offense. They're really physical and try to dominate you up front on defense, and or you know, they get creative with exchanging gaps with their front 7 and do a good job of disguising and mixing up coverages in the back end. So, you know, it's a tough, smart football team, and that's pretty much his MO and has been since I've gotten to know him as a coach.
Mershawn Rice appeared on the field, I think for the first time maybe against Ohio State. What all went into that? Was that him making a move in practice? Was that you trying to extend your rotation? Was that him getting healthy? What was that all about? Where's he kind of fit in moving forward?
You know, I don't know if that was the first time he's been in a game. It was his first time he got extended snaps, and that's a result of practice habits, of the need to rotate at that position, and you know, just also get like he's a bigger guy, and I think that is sort of what we needed out on the outside with what we're trying to do, and like I said, his attitude and his practice habits and the production he had in practice led to more playing time, and you know, I'm hoping that is a continued trend as the season goes.
Any more questions for Coach?
Just one personnel one, Ryan. Mohamed Musa, he's helped off the field against Ohio State. Is it a long-term thing, day-to-day, or I saw he's on the depth chart still? I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but just want to ask about him.
Yeah, that is accurate. He's still day-to-day, but we're confident that he'll be available and be ready to go by Saturday.
Ryan Walters asked if he feels a sense of urgency heading into the last 5 games. You knew this answer was coming, but Walters said, absolutely, we are in playoff mode right now. Back on Big Ten Live, Nebraska picked up a win it desperately needed in its quest to get to 6 and become bowl eligible. 17-9 over Northwestern. Wasn't the prettiest thing in the world offensively, but that black shirt defense has been playing better all year. They tallied 8 sacks and 13 tackles for loss, allowed just 81 rush yards, and the offense did enough as the Huskers improved to 4-3. The win for Nebraska is the second in a row, second 2-game win streak of the season for Matt Rhule's Huskers. That following the Illinois win, 20-7 the previous time out. That means the Huskers have given up just 16 points in their last 2 games after surrendering 45 to number 2 Michigan. Things clearly headed in the right direction for Matt Rhule as we head to Lincoln.
Start first by congratulating the women's volleyball team. I thought that was awesome. On Saturday, I was home. I did not go to the game. My daughter shamed me, but we watched it together as a family and loved it. So true grit and competitiveness was pretty awesome to see. And so hopefully we can match their intensity this Saturday. As we move forward, just a couple injury updates. We're a pretty beat-up team right now. Ethan Piper is done for the year. He'll have knee surgery. Turner Corcoran is done for the year. He'll have foot surgery. Nuri's in surgery right now. Nuri will be out for probably 1 to 2 weeks. So we'll have to have some guys step up. So with that, Billy Kemp will be out multiple weeks with an MCL sprain. And I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. That's really it. So Tom will be day by day. So we're not, Tom Hill's kind of superhuman healing powers. I'm sure Tom will be back. Probably be at practice tomorrow, but he'll be day to day. So with that being said, I thought in the last game, a lot of guys stepped up when their number was called. I thought Justin Evans-Jenkins came in both at guard and then at center. Henry Lutoski is a guy that's been a starter for us at guard. Teddy Prohaska is a guy that's been waiting his turn. So we have lots of guys who started games here on the offensive line. Jaden Doss and some of the other young receivers, they obviously stepped up. Tristan Alvano stepped up. So I expect them to step up, and I expect our veteran players to play their best football. And that's what happened on Saturday. I know Nash people were talking, I thought when you watch tape, Nash played great, and Ty Robinson was absolutely dominant. And so we'll need those guys to play well. We'll need other guys to step up, and there's a standard here, and everyone has to meet the standard. So I know you guys are all trying to tweet that news out, so I'll give you a second, and then wait and hear what you have to say.
Is there any prevailing theme to any of these, or are they just fluke things that are all happening at once?
Yeah, they're all contact injuries. You get your foot stepped on. Ethan, I don't know if you've seen the play, but the guy gets blocked into Ethan. He hits him from the front. Sometimes some of our guys wear knee braces to prevent getting hit from the side, but he gets hit from the front and dislocates his knee. He's going to have a major surgery. So my heart is with Ethan. I can tell you that. There's no one more a Cornhusker than him. And so, he's got a long road ahead, but he's a tough guy. Billy gets, kind of the guy kind of just bumps into him, hits his knee. So they've pretty much all been contact injuries. They've pretty much all been on the offensive side. So, as we always do, we get to the offseason, we'll study everything and see if there's something we can do better. But it's obviously a rash of injuries on offense.
How far has Teddy come in the last 3-4 weeks as that sort of extra tackle, and what are your expectations for him as he maybe slides into where Turner's at?
Yeah, I think Teddy's a starter for us. Teddy can absolutely play at a super high level. He's had the benefit of all these weeks of practice, of getting his feet underneath him. Got some reps in the Michigan game. He wasn't quite to full speed yet at the Michigan game. He's to full speed now. That knee's healthy. He's ready to go. So, I love those guys. Those are great guys, Turner and Pipe, that left side of that line. But Teddy's OU. He'll be ready to go. I think again, just getting that sort of that rep as the jumbo tight end has helped him, and then he's gotten a lot of reps in practice. So Teddy will play really well for us.
Have you ever had a year where one side of the ball's been hit with injuries like that?
Never. Yeah, I've never had anything close to this. So, but you know what? We press on. There's no sadness in me. Like it's sadness for my guys. I love those guys. I couldn't have even thought of having another receiver go down. But. And this is not from a football perspective. When we walk out on the field on this coming Saturday, all but 2 guys will be underclassmen on the offense. So those guys are learning by fire. You know what I mean? And you know what? When given a chance, Malachi Coleman went and made a play. When given a chance, Emmett Johnson went and made a play. When given a chance, Justin went out and played well. When given a chance, Jalen Lloyd has made plays. When given a chance, so. We have enough players to win with, and we got guys who can help us. So we'll just have to continue to step up.
How much does some of the injuries affect maybe just the red shirt conversations with guys? Are those still ongoing, or most of those?
Oh yeah, yeah. The players' careers always come first. That's maybe different here than other places, but that's why I think most guys will appreciate that in the long run. And we have, like I said, I hope you guys see what I say. I really mean. I told you we have some good guys that are redshirting, like James Williams. I wasn't lying, right? We've got some good players just sitting there waiting their turns. Quentin Ives got in last game. I was hoping for a bigger role. Only got a player or 2, but Quentin's ready to go. But my plan is, if we can, to redshirt all these guys. This might affect Jaden Doss, depending on how fast Billy comes back, because Jaden's now played in 2 games. But I think Jaden's going to play. So if you're going to go out there and play 50, 60 snaps, then to me it's worth playing in 5 or 6 games, 7 games. Yeah, so, but I'm not going to use a guy up for, 10 plays and use a whole year up on him. I'm going to do my best. So each guy's unique, each guy's different. On the offensive line, we have some really good young O-linemen that we've been redshirting, and Sam Sledge and Gunnar Gatula. Gunnar was there with us in the spring. Gunnar can play. And so those guys are coming up on, hey, they've got 4 games, so they'll be ready in the jumbo tight end and the field goal team. Jacob Hood is back and been playing. Tyler Canuck we brought in. So those guys, those guys have really come along. And again, when we got here and Coach Osborne and Coach Solich and those guys talked about, the 2 platoon practices and all that, which we've done some of in the past, and just doing a little bit more of it. I think it's going to pay off right now for us.
Coach, you never want to see it because of injuries, but how can you speak to the benefit of getting these younger guys these reps, going into the long term?
Oh yes, I mean it's. I did this at Baylor and Temple for different reasons, right? The older guys weren't bought in, so I played all the young players, and 3 years later they took their lumps. 3 years later they were champions. Our older players fight for us and believe in what we're doing. So, but as they've gotten banged up, other guys step up. So, I think the biggest thing is we have a standard, and it was not the standard on offense last Saturday, putting the ball on the ground that many times. I don't care about the score, as I've told you guys. But I do care about the execution. I told the team that was one of the best wins I've been a part of. But that was certainly not the best performance I've been a part of, if that makes sense. So, we can't. It's kind of, when you go back and look at it, right? Think about the first 3 drives. 4 of the first 6 plays or 3 of the first 6 plays are balls on the ground. It's the turnover, the balls on the ground. All of a sudden we settle down. The next 2 drives we go down, we score. We're going to have to grow up a little bit, on offense this week in terms of taking care of the ball and making the plays that are available to us, because the young players on defense are getting that done. And so the young players on offense can get that done, and I have full confidence. This is the challenge this week: is hey, let's take care of the football. This Purdue team that we're facing, they're going to put pressure on you. They're going to come after you. Coach Walters is a defensive mastermind. They've had a bye week. When you come off of a bye week, all of a sudden we go out against Northwestern and they're in tackle over, and they're doing all these different things on offense. They're doing different things on defense. We're facing another team coming off a bye week. When you have a young team, they have to be able to adjust quickly. We have a lot in front of us, so we cannot put the ball on the ground. We have to protect the football and battle it out to the very last play of the game.
Coach Satterfield called a couple first down passes. One of them was the interception to start the game. Heinrich missed another one when it was on the bootleg, but on the one where they had to have a touchdown, he hit it. What maybe did he not do, Heinrich, on those first 2 throws that he was able to successfully do on the touchdown pass?
Yeah, the first play is either explosive play or a touchdown, right? So, I just think I think sometimes as you go through the ascent of a young quarterback, you go out there early on and you just start to play. I mean, I was taught this by June Jones, so this isn't like Matt Rhule's theory, okay? You just go out there, you just kind of play, and you play on instinct. Then you have some success, and so you start trying to be like, oh, okay. Then you start trying to be, I'm going to do this versus this coverage. I'm going to do this, and you start seeing all these things, and you start to play slow, and then you get through that, and you start to play fast again. He was just too slow. I mean, that guy Fidoni's open, but Borkacher on the corner and go is wide open down. We're going to start the game off with a touchdown, but we rushed. We saw too much, and so I think that showed up a lot during the game. I mean, we left a lot of things out there, way too much out there to win a Big Ten game. So. I think as the game settled on, we hit that one. I mean, again, Malachi's first progression, we just play the play and hit it. But there were some plays that were there that I think we absolutely should hit, have to hit. And, I think we're at the point for me as a coach where it's like, hey, we're going to be more aggressive. We're going to have to push the ball down the field a little bit. Now, obviously this week's a new week. We have some guys down. We have to see who's healthy and who's ready to go. But that was the thought process last week. I just think Heinrich, he can make those plays. He just has to slow down. But that is what happens. They play off instinct. Then they start coming in and watching tape and starting to see the coverages. And whereas early on they were just going 1, 2, 3, now they're like, well, I see the mic, and they start trying to be more. And then all of a sudden they finally hit a point where they relax and they just play. And so Heinrich, this is a good week to try to do that.
Hey, what was Nick's availability, Center Henrich? I mean, he only played a few plays for you guys. Is he healthy?
Yeah, he's just been a little bit banged up. And so, Nick is a downhill, violent, physical run defender that can, play the pass as well. But just, just not, just a little banged up. So I think, we kind of went with a little bit more of Javen and those guys. So just more a coach's decision and hoping that Nick would come through that game And because we held them on Wednesday night's practice, get through that game, be available as needed, and hopefully be a little bit more healthy this week, kind of as we move forward. So, Nick's coming off a knee, he banged his shoulder up in the Illinois game. He's just a veteran player who's played a lot of football, and he's a little banged up. So, he's the heart and soul of the team. But that was just more probably the game and his health than anything else.
Is there anything else Ben Scott went out to in the second half? I assume he's okay. He's okay.
Yeah. Ben practiced last night. We expect Ben to play.
How does the you guys have had this mentality on the offensive line with Rhule all through the offseason that these guys were such a tight group and spent all their time together. Now that they're facing this kind of a situation, kind of similar to your wide receivers, how does that mentality help when you have to put in guys like Teddy and Henry and Justin into the lineup?
Yeah, because they play for each other, So, I texted Turner and I texted Pipe on Saturday night, and both guys with devastating season-ending, potentially surgical for Turner, surgical for Piper injuries. Both guys were talking about the impact they were going to have on the young players and how they wanted to get back out there. A lot of guys get injured and they go to treatment. You don't really see them in meetings quite as much, and I try to make them go to meetings, but sometimes it's, hey, I can get to the rehab guy here, so there's some things we do medically. I walked by the O-line room yesterday and I see the crutches outside the meeting room from Turner, and I can't say enough about that. So Turner's going to be right there with the guys, and Pipe's going to be right there with the guys, and all along I've said when they've been under scrutiny, I've always said I think we should be pretty thankful for these guys that are out there battling. We'll be thankful for them now, and I'm thankful for the backups that are now starters, that the way they've prepared, because, it has not been perfect. They've won 4 out of their last 5. Go back to last year's Illinois game. What was it? We have 170, 165 yards rushing in this game. It's not perfect, but these guys fight. They fight for the University of Nebraska, and so I can't say enough about when Justin went in, what he did. I thought Justin played well. And, Canucks ready, Lutoski's ready. We got a lot of guards that can go in and play.
What was Nuri's injury again?
I don't want to say that right now just because I haven't talked to him. I'm sorry. But he should be back in 2 weeks, we hope.
You had said everybody else. So
Yeah. Because they're out for the year. I just haven't talked to Nuri. That's the only reason why.
Is there a plan for Sam?
I'm sorry, guys.
Go ahead, Sean. Sam Sledge.
Don't you guys work? This was like
Sam Sledge, what's his status? Could you get him on there for 4 games down the stretch here late?
That's been the plan, right? Hey, as needed. He would still be in that, hey, I'm a backup. I'm in the backup role. He wouldn't be rotating in or anything like that yet. Gunner would be in that same role. But, you start thinking about the PAT field goal team, and you start thinking about the extra tight ends. We like to get into we were in that game, and we had 2 things we wanted to do. We wanted to get into big 14 personnel, no receivers, and do some special things. And we wanted to feature Billy. And all of a sudden, Billy's out, and the 14 personnel stuff's out. So having Gunner, having Sam available in those areas, I think could be really good for us. And giving Jaden a full week of knowing, hey, I'm the slot, will help us a ton.
Where's the air raid going? Is there anything in particular that you've seen from the front 6, front 7 that has impressed you on defense?
From ours?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when they play aggressively, when they're getting off and attacking, that's happened in pretty much every game, but 1 or 2. We have guys who can rush off the edge. When it's a 4-man rush, sometimes the quarterback has stepped up. Going to that 5-man rush in the last game allowed us to have 5 one-on-ones. So it was a great. I think that was Coop suggested that, and Tony went with it. That's what makes Tony so good. He listens to everybody, and that allowed us to have 5 one-on-ones. But I just think we play really aggressively. The guys play fast. I don't ever notice when someone else is in, if that makes sense. I don't sit there and say, well, why is Ty out? Rhule goes in, he runs a line movement. He's a nose tackle who runs a movement outside. He gets a counter at him and he spills it. You couldn't get that done if you had me begged, but Rhule does it, right? Riley Van Poppel as a freshman's out there getting 10 to 12 plays every game. We just have a lot of guys we can rotate in there and play. And so, when you have MJ and Prince as the jacks, when you have, 4 or 5 inside backers you trust, guys can play fast. They can compete against each other to get more reps, and they hit the movements and they execute the movements. So Lenhart's finally healthy, which is a big thing for us. Chief has given us good reps. I think a guy that's really made a jump in the last 2 weeks to me is Blaze Gunnarsson. He's played a lot of football, but he's always kind of been nicked up in the past, and now he's healthy and he's just getting extended weeks, and he's finding his confidence. So we have a lot of guys, Steve, that can play, and I think we can cut them loose. Now this week presents a whole unique challenge. In that Hudson Card, he was a Division I wide receiver if he wanted to be. I watched him in high school. He's so athletic. So now some of the things we've been letting some guys out of the pocket and we run them down, you're not running Hudson down. So we have to do some different things this week versus this offense. And, Graham Harrell's a great offensive coordinator. He will find a way to run the football. And what we found out last week was, like Northwestern, which was last in the Big Ten in rushing off a bye week, was going to find a way to run the football against us, and they did. They had 135 yards. Completely unrelated, but I didn't say this after the game. If, when I say, hey, would have lost the game earlier in the year, and I think you maybe asked me, what do you mean? Or I think maybe someone asked me what I mean. I've been on a lot of teams where, those runs break and Omar Brown doesn't run the guy down. Or Malcolm gets beat, right? And a lot of times I've seen that guy turn and look at the safety like this, and the ball walks in for a touchdown, and that's losing teams. And that's why when I say, I don't care about the score, I care about the film looks, I want to win the game. But when I see that, I'm like, man, the fact that Malcolm got beat and didn't feel sorry for himself and ran it down and got the guy tackled at the 8-yard line, then we held him to a field goal, that's the winning football. Can the defense continue to do – the defense will have to do it more this week with the amount of injuries on offense. The special teams have to do it more this week. So we can't start to go like this. We have to continue to go like this and just say we're playing as the Huskers. So that's a lot of things I said. But I just think they play aggressively. They play together, and we throw a lot of waves at people.
Matt, how pervasive is sign stealing in your experience?
Sign stealing happens every game. There's nothing wrong with teams over there looking over trying to steal our signs. There's nothing wrong with us trying to look at their signs. It's why you should have mics in the helmets, right? All these coaches that vote against it every year is because they don't want to teach their quarterback. In the NFL, each quarterback goes out there with 3 play calls because if I see the free safety's foot like that, it might be one high. I'm going to check to this play. But you get to college and you're watching a game on a Tuesday night, and they got the signal and they're just calling a play. So that's what makes college football, to me. That's why they score maybe more points. But it's also why the kids are less prepared. So that's why there should be 100% should be. We could get rid of all the stupid signs on the sidelines, and we could get pictures of, rock stars and all that stuff. And we could just play football the way it was meant to be. You go to a high school game, there's technology on the sideline. You go to an NFL game, there's technology on the sideline. You go to the college, there's nothing. If you don't think, so that it should be that. But that's sign stealing. That's not. I would not carry that over to going and filming someone else's practices or something like that, or filming someone else's games. That's completely something different. And I'm not saying that happened, but I think what's wrong partly in our society right now sometimes is we say someone does something against the rules, and sports need rules, right? Sports need rules to keep competitive balance. And when someone does something against the rules, we say, well, should that really even be a rule? And it is the rule. That's the rule, right? I didn't get to play with. We don't get 5 downs, But in-game, stealing of signs. When I play against somebody and I know that person has friends on the next staff, I know if they have our signs, they're having it the next week. That's all part of the game, and you have to do what you do. We should absolutely have technology, but if there's a rule, the rule should be followed. And I'm not speaking about what's happening right now because I don't know what happened. But if that is happening somewhere, it's completely, completely wrong.
When you played Michigan, did you have any suspicions that there was more than the usual amount of knowledge on their side?
No one from the Big Ten or NCAA has asked me anything yet, so I'm not going to probably comment on anything like that. I would never want to cast shade at somebody else going through a hard time. I don't know anything.
You said Ty was dominant. He had 1 tackle. So, what does dominant look like in Ty Robinson's case?
Other guys sometimes get sacks because he runs up the field, makes the quarterback run for his life. On the last sack of the game, he beats the guy one-on-one. He was absolutely dominant in my mind. By far Ty's best game. The type of game that moves you up a couple rounds in the draft. I thought he looked excellent. I always go back to the tape, not the stat line. At the end of the game, I'm always when I'm walking out of the media room, and I see Nash there, I'm like, they picked you, huh? And he's like, yeah, you had 2.5 sacks. I can't even tell that sometimes during the game, what's happening. But when I watch the tape, I just think Ty hit his stride. And that doesn't mean that. They're both hitting their stride. And then Cam comes in, and then Jamari's playing well. But, I think Ty's someone that the other team has to take account of when he plays.
What's your plan at running back? You see it kind of working out like you did this past week with the rotation of guys?
Yeah, I think it's one of those deals where Emmett can kind of do everything for us, and Emmett had some good plays for us. Anthony held onto the ball. Anthony had a great run on a run. Josh Fleck is a guy that we want to continue to get in the game. So I think all three of those guys are going to continue to play. And I'd like to have more plays. I'd like to have more tailback runs. So hopefully we can continue to get those guys more involved. But it'll be all three of those guys, pending a good week of practice and pending ball security.
I'd like to go to those jumbo packages. Now you got 3 offensive linemen out. You know, Billy's a guy that you guys put a lot of the offensive game plan with. Now he's out. How do you anticipate your offense kind of changing in these next couple of weeks to make up for those, losses?
Yeah, we're going to have to find the players we have and find what they do well and put them out there. Each week, this is a man-to-man defense. This is a Bear defense that's highly active. Pressure's a lot different than Illinois. Same sort of structure, but different than Illinois. So, it brings unique challenges. But to me, it's about, hey, who are the players that we have and what can they do? And I think that's on both sides of the ball and on special teams. We're always trying to highlight our players and at the same time understanding that each defense brings things that we have to be prepared for. And they have a lot that we have to be prepared for. So getting into specifics of it, I can't say right now. It's Monday, but as we get closer during the week, I think we'll have a good plan.
Hey, back to the NFL thing. You've been on both sides of this now. What do NFL coaches appreciate in terms of feedback from college coaches, and what do you like to give them in terms of when you're talking about your players and being honest about what they can and can't do?
Yeah, they don't really need no one really wants as a college coach, my football evaluation of them as a football player, because they see that themselves, right? They don't need me to tell them how fast they are. I think at the end of the day, they really want to know, like, hey, what's his character like? What's his football character like? Meaning practice habits, taking care of his body. Is he going to be a pro? What's his how's he going to take care of his body? How's he going to learn? Will he play special teams? The good thing for me is because I had so many guys at like Temple and Baylor that kind of went on, and I had a lot of guys that were like late draft picks or free agents that have made it a long time because they were truly professional. When a guy comes in and says, like, hey, tell me about Quentin Newsome, I'm like, hey, he reminds me a lot of Nate. He reminds me a lot of Nate Hairston. He reminds me a lot of Tavon Young. They can put those projections together. But really, what they want from me is they want to know that football character, that note taking, that learning. That's the biggest thing at that level. If a guy's a first or second round pick, that's one thing. When you got the 3 down, it's tell me about these. And as I tell our guys, I'm going to be honest, completely transparent, because if I lie about one, I'm lying about them all, right? And then they'll never listen to me again. So, but we have great guys, and I think when people come watch us practice and see the way that we do things, it helps, because what you really want when you're trying to take a late round guy or a free agent is you want a guy that's going to practice. And so when people, we had one scout come in and said, man, you guys are the second hardest practicing team I've seen in college football. And I had him tell the team that, right? Because I think sometimes they look at me like, why are we practicing so hard? Well, you know what? When a guy comes up and it's going to be 2 names, and he looks at a guy from the University of Nebraska late or as a free agent, he knows, hey, these guys know how to practice. So those are the things they kind of ask. If there's a guy I know, obviously they'll ask me some more things about guys. But the base thing is that, like, what's the football character learning? If it's a first-round pick, maybe more about, Coach, once he has some money, is he going to continue to love the game, or is he love the game just to make some money? And so those are the things people are asking me.
Did it bother you that he said?
Now, Matt Rhule, when asked about Ty Robinson's performance against Northwestern, said that Robinson played the kind of game that, quote, moves you up a couple of rounds in the NFL draft. That kind of game is called a Dean Lowry, of course, a former Northwestern star who ended up using a couple of games like that to move up in the draft after his college career. We're about to take you to Bloomington to listen in to IU head coach Tom Allen. Last 3 weeks have not gone well for the Hoosiers, giving up 44 to Maryland, 52 to Michigan, and this past week 31 to Rutgers. Doesn't get much easier this week as Indiana is on the road to face Penn State. Ahead of that contest, we listen in to Indiana head coach Tom Allen.
All right, good morning. Appreciate you guys being here. Just want to recognize some of our guys from last week. Just appreciate their continued effort. It's critical for our team. Defensive Scouts of the Week, Jeff Etzinger and Tadarius Collins. Offensive Scout of the Week is Eli Yoakum, and Special Teams Scout of the Week was Mitch Evans. So appreciate those guys and all that they do. Good meetings with our guys yesterday. Obviously, just talking through their mindset and where we are, and obviously we got to be able to continue to come together and fight. And just appreciate the guys and the way they've responded. But obviously, we got a great week of preparation. It's very critical, without a doubt. Playing a very good football team on the road that has a lot of talent at all positions, all three phases, and a tough environment to play in. So, great opportunity for our program to continue to grow and develop as a team. A lot of football ahead of us, and so excited about the opportunity this week to come back and keep working. Questions?
I guess, Tom, sorry to hit the quarterback question every week, but just how did you evaluate the way Brendan played, and do you feel comfortable at this point just sort of standing on the idea that, you know, he stays there as number one and he gets to kind of move forward, maybe make some mistakes, but just stay in that role and grow into it?
I do, and I think that he, I thought he played tough, thought he played gritty, thought he competed, continue to grow and develop. I think he's got to continue to speed up some of his reads, but that's part of the process of growing and developing as a player. And thought he did some really good things in terms of helping us move the football. Obviously, got to continue to grow and develop as a decision maker in both throwing and running, but the throw game as well. We got to do a better job of making some of those contested catches. I think that's be a huge plus for him, but also just kind of speeding up those reads. I think he'll get the ball out a little quicker as he continues to grow and develop. So, but felt like after watching the film and meeting as a staff and feel good about moving forward with him.
Yeah, Tom, in terms of, wins is obviously an important measuring stick for a program, but there's other things. I was curious, are there areas where you can point to that you see as signs of progress or for year-to-year growth from last year despite the similar results?
Yeah, there's no doubt that's a challenge, and you play a lot of really good football teams. The margin for error is very small, and, we ran the ball better against a good defense, top 5 defense in the country in total defense. 5.3 yards a carry is definitely progress for that group. And thought Trent Harlon did a good job running the football, several others as well. But just got to continue. And I think even just protecting the quarterback as well, did some better things up front on the offensive line play. Definitely seen progress there. And there's just an overall team, obviously a lot of new faces when you have a new group of guys. And so you're just trying to continue to grow and develop them. And at the end of the day, we got to win. And we're not winning enough football games. So that becomes, that's what you do on game day, and that's how you're judged, and that's how it has to be. So the reality is we got to, continue to eliminate mistakes. The block punt is just a devastating, huge mistake that costly, very, very costly. And then the muff punt, and then it gives up 10 points, that you can't afford to give up. So, so you just continue to grow and build and develop, and to me, just offensively continue to build. Who we want to be, and it starts up front. So we're definitely seeing progress there without question. And but playing it against another great defense this week, so it's just continued, working towards trying to find ways to move the football and get that ball in the end zone.
Tom, where do you sit in terms of the safety positions? Right now, obviously, it didn't look good for Noah Pierre, and Philip Dunham came off the field as well. What's the status of?
So Noah will be out for an extended period of time. He's been such a great player for us and great leader for us. So Philip hopefully will get him back. But other guys got to step up. We got Lewis will be back. He was obviously with the targeting call, so he'll be back for the first quarter next week. So that'll be a plus for sure. And then Jordan Greer will be having to step up, and as well as Bryson Bonds will now be having an opportunity to be able to play. And so feel like we have some depth at that spot. But obviously, losing a guy like Noah for an extended period of time is a tough blow without question. But he's going to continue to be a great leader for us and continue to get himself back and hopefully back as soon as possible.
Coach, you mentioned you felt like there's been progress within the program. I know over the last few years you've talked about tweaks and adjustments you guys have made with the strength and conditioning program. Do you feel like there's still more room to improve there? And what kind of things would you like to see to get, maybe improve that part of the program?
Well, we made a huge emphasis on, the nutritional part of our program, and that's an investment piece that we have to do, and there's no question, and just ways to continue to develop our guys' bodies and to continue to allow them to physically grow and mature while they're here, and gaining good weight, and just continue to, get them as big and as fast and strong as you can possibly be, and I think that our strength staff works their tails off with these guys and does a lot of work with them even mentally and getting our guys back each week and helping us with that regard. So, Coach Wellman does a phenomenal job, and but you're always working hard to find ways to get better and improve, and to me, just everything we do to be able to help our guys, because those are the things that as a developmental program we have to do really well. Guys get here, they come here, their bodies can be grown and developed, and that's what you want to do, and have older guys that are playing for you. That's really the goal at the end of the day, and that's how you win in this conference. So I just think that's something that we're always looking at every possible way we can do to improve that area and keep investing in that part of our program.
Tom, over here. Can you talk a little bit about Harlon and Amari Farrell, just what you saw from them on Saturday and what you hope to get from them the rest of the way here?
Yeah, first off with Amari, as a true freshman, he's a guy that, even when you ask the older players, once we started practicing, since he's been here, it's been like, hey, this guy's got something different about him. He's a physical player. He kind of understands the game. And, he's a kid that's played a lot of football, being from Florida where you have spring football. And so he kind of brought that edge and confidence to him. So he had a chance to play an extended period of time, on Saturday, which was, he was ready when called upon, and he's going to have to continue to grow in that role. So really excited for his future. He's a guy that we made a decision even, several weeks ago that we were not going to redshirt him because he was too valuable to us in playing on defense as well as special teams. And so really excited for his future. And then Trent, to me is a guy that's just really challenged about just using his size, and running with that kind of authority. And even though he's a big guy, he's always kind of been a little bit more of viewed himself as a finesse type runner. I'm like, that is not who you need to be. Now he's got great ball skills. He's a really good athlete. You should see him on the basketball court. He's an impressive athlete. Just thought he had a chance to really be a good player, and he came here, had the knee injury right out of high school. Actually heard that he was a really good basketball player in high school, and he heard that playing basketball, so he came here that way. So it's just kind of taking him some time. But a big physical guy that just needs to take that ball and get downhill. And he's doing that now. And you can see the benefits of that for him and for us. So excited for him and his development and the way he's responded.
Yeah, just after you've had a little more time to watch the Rutgers game and kind of the struggles you had in terms of stopping the run, just what did you see as kind of some of those causes, and do you think some of those things are fixable at this point?
Yeah, there's no question that, studied it thoroughly, especially from the fact of, just doing certain things that, there's a physical toughness piece to stopping the run, and just felt like that, we got mismatched at times with some of our perimeter guys, just got physically was harder, just you got to be able to step up and tackle big physical backs and take on those blockers if you're a safety or a corner, but they do a good job of kind of creating those situations formationally where those guys have to step up and make those plays, was just disappointed that we weren't able to get some critical. We had a 4th and 4, it was a really critical play, I thought. We had a 3rd and 7 as well that we didn't get off the field, which would have forced a punt. Then we had the horse collar on the 3rd down play, a 3rd and 8, that kept that drive alive. And those things, they add up, and you think, because if you look at the sequence of plays that, we had 41 snaps of defense in the first half, which is too many. But the problem was the horse collar caused 6 more snaps. And that was self-inflicted by the defense. And then the muff punt caused 5 more snaps. So then now you take away 11 snaps. Now you're at 30 snaps, okay, which is where you want to be. So it's just like, wow, those things are, obviously they're not small, but you don't really necessarily talk about them, and yet they add up. And then that gives you to where now you're in the second half and you're playing too many snaps, and really it was because, some self-inflicted wounds. And then, we scored with 4 minutes to go in the second quarter. We didn't get the ball till 8 minutes to go in the third quarter. Okay, and now we're down by 10 by the time we get the ball back again. So those are things that, and then within that sequence was the 4th and 4 that we didn't get off the field, in that opening drive of the third quarter. So that to me are the things that I focus on, and because they kind of snowball on you a little bit, and then they wear you down when you're on the field too much. And so everybody just points to that, sees that stat, said, oh, it's just all the offense. Well, it's special teams and defense as well. So I just feel like that, and we we don't have a lot of margin for error in any of these areas. We got to be able to, so we got to get off the field in that 4th and 4. We got to get off the field in 3rd and 7, that 3rd and 8 situation as well. So I focus on that and just being able to continue to find ways to take away what they do well. And, we did some good things. I thought the guys played hard, and I thought our D-line actually played well. I didn't think our linebackers played well at all. And we talked about that as a team, the players, coaches, that's nothing, they didn't play well. And that's where those guys have to, in my opinion. So and that hasn't been the case each week, but just calling like it is. And so the bottom line is that we got to be able to, yes, we can fix those things without question, but at the same time, there's a lot of little things that go into the sequencing of a game and how things, play out in the end.
Tom, you touched on it a little bit in that answer, but you guys went 2 for 11 on 3rd downs on Saturday, and that obviously led to some of the difficulties you had moving the ball later in the game. Just what do you need to do to be better in those situations?
Yeah, and I think you look at that, and there's no question. The execution on a throw game, contested catches, ball out faster. Protected pretty well. They obviously, pressured at times, and you're trying to eliminate some of those opportunities for them to get those pressure units on the field, for your offense. And I even think, too, in the first half when we had the offensive pass interference call, which was a bust in assignment. It wasn't even supposed to be, that person wasn't supposed to be there. They were supposed to be running a vertical route. And so that really was kind of just killed that drive, and can't make those kind of mistakes, and so, but at the same time, it's the finish in our execution, with both receivers on finishing the routes, finishing the plays, quarterbacks just reads, and finishing, running backs protection, they're blocking. So just got to keep working. I mean, you don't get the product you want. You make adjustments, which we continue to do, and the way we do things. And at the end of the day, we got to make plays, and we got to execute, and we got to find a way to, stay on the field on offense and those critical 3rd downs. And it's going to be no different this week. And we got to find a way to get off the field defensively on those 3rd downs. And those critical downs, 3rd and 4th downs, really define outcomes of games, because it's possessions, it's opportunities for offense to be able to stay on the field. So just keep working.
Coach, you've kind of talked about it with some of the self-inflicted mistakes, but specifically on special teams. Is there something that you can do or something that film is showing as to why there's been some mistakes in crucial times on special teams?
Yeah, so in this one, with the protection, which hasn't been an issue, but was obviously in this game. So made some adjustments on that, how we can, help our guys out, be able to be effective in that regard, because you can't get a punt block. And then we worked so hard on catching punts and continue to do that, and just got to secure the football. I mean, there was just less than a minute to go in the half, I think 28 seconds, I think exactly, and just can't put our team in that position, So, but that to me is just continued reps, and then obviously if you got to, make adjustments personnel-wise, make adjustments, which we, in our punt unit, we're going to do that, So we just got to make sure the right guys are out there that can get the job done at the critical times.
The big talk heading into this week and the previous couple of weeks really for Indiana was the quarterback situation. Would it be Brennan Sorsby? Would it be Taven Jackson? It was Sorsby last week, and Allen said he thought Sorsby did some really good things in terms of helping Indiana move the football. Said he needs to continue growing and developing, but after watching film, Allen still feels good about moving forward at quarterback with Brennan Sorsby. Northwestern lost a critical showdown against Nebraska this past weekend, a game that could have improved the Wildcats to 4-3. The goal here for David Braun and company, try to get to 6 and become bowl eligible. Now, you see the remaining schedule won't be easy at Maryland, Iowa, at Wrigley Field, Wisconsin and Illinois on the road, as well as Purdue at home. Wildcats will have to win 3 of those games to reach the magic number of 6. Let's head to Evanston ahead of this weekend's game at home against Maryland. Thoughts on the Terps and other thoughts from David Braun.
We're 11 a.m. Central Time this Saturday against Maryland, and if you didn't see it, we will be at 2:30 Central Time the following Saturday at Wrigley Field against Iowa. We'll have information for everyone about credentials this week. We'll start with an opening statement from Coach, then go into questions. If you have a question after his statement, just go ahead and raise your hand. Coach.
Back in the facility yesterday, and our guys were back at it this morning for morning meetings. Did not get any easier yesterday. Going back and reviewing the film. you have a group that is, disappointed in the result, but also very hungry for what's still ahead. And I think you could just see that in the way that our guys are carrying themselves. It's an intense group. It's a group that knows that our best football is still ahead of us, and is anxious to come back later this afternoon and totally shift their frame of mind and focus on a very good Maryland team that's going to be coming into Ryan Field. So we're gonna learn from Nebraska. We're gonna grow, and very confident, very optimistic about what is still in front of this football team.
First question, Dave.
David, you said after the game that the word you used was crushed in describing your team. Is that different than the reaction to some of the games you've lost earlier? And if so, how do you work them through that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is different. I think you have a football team right now that has started to really find their confidence, their identity. There's always been a level of togetherness, but I think that's only grown as the season has gone along. I think you truly saw a team Saturday evening into Sunday that fully expected to win that football game, and left every ounce of their being out on that field. So I think that's where that element of disappointment and a sense of being crushed came from. But you got a group that came back into the facility this morning, is amped up, is ready to grow from it and get better, and that expects to have a great week of preparation moving forward. I think the way that we help them navigate that is just as a coaching staff to embody and carry a great deal of optimism and energy, and also hold ourselves as a coaching staff and hold that the team as a whole accountable to all the little things we need to continue to improve upon to win games in the Big Ten.
Coach, kind of through 7 games now through this season, it feels like the same issues have kind of plagued your red zone offense, not getting after the quarterback, not pass blocking. How would you assess and evaluate those facets of the game, and how do you feel like you've seen those improve at all throughout the season so far?
Yeah, there's been elements in terms of our protection offensively that have been clicking for sure. You look at the Minnesota game and some of the things that we were able to do, in the second half. A lot of that had to do with our ability to protect the passer. An operation like Penn State, an operation like Nebraska, very aggressive, very pressure oriented. Those are areas that we need to continue to improve upon. In terms of affecting the quarterback defensively, there's certainly been some bright spots of guys, being able to get after the quarterback. Nebraska didn't give us a whole lot of opportunities to do that on Saturday, but those are two areas that will continue to be points of emphasis: protecting our quarterback and finding ways to affect our opponent's quarterback.
Coach, you gave a shout out to the specialists this morning, and Renner, Hulkyard, and Olsen. They're always a pretty consistent group, but why are you giving them the extra props this week today? Their performance, merit was warranted it. The way that those guys performed in terms of being able to create advantageous field position. Jack being able to get us on the board even on that missed field goal that came up just short. Will with his operation from a snapping standpoint, all critical things that often get overlooked or taken for granted, and those guys are a model of consistency in terms of their preparation. So probably something that we could point out every single week, but especially this week, they deserved an extra little pat on the back.
Coach, Jackson Carcel got the start at center this week. What was the decision making behind that, and is it expected that Jackson will remain at center for the rest of the season?
We'll evaluate that day to day. A decision hasn't been made on that just yet, but Jackson had a great 2 weeks of practice, and his performance in practice merited an opportunity for him to start.
Coach, is there any update on Ben Bryant?
At this point, there's not. We're taking it day to day. We're very confident that Ben will be back at some point this season. It's just kind of a fickle deal that he's working through, and hopeful that that he's healthy sooner than later. But we're taking it day to day, and for that young man, you can just see the level of frustration that he's dealing with. He's hungry to get back, but at this point, no update. Taking it day to day.
So kind of a follow-up on that. I mean, after the Penn State game, you said that there was no long-term concern for an injury for Ben. Now it looks like he might be about to miss a month or more. Is that something was that a strategic decision? Is that an issue of rehab not going as planned, re-aggravating? Has he been practicing? What has changed between now and then?
Nothing's changed. Just an optimism from our standpoint that if we approach this with a mentality that guys are going to get back as soon as possible, and also never putting guys out on the field until they're fully ready to go. So we're going to stay optimistic with our rehab approach, and keep certain elements of that information in house and take it day to day.
Coach, after watching the tape, how would you evaluate your offense this past weekend, especially Brendan Sullivan?
I thought Sully battled his tail off, and found ways to create some plays. That completion down to AJ, the completion to Kurtz under intense pressure, moving his feet, sliding in the pocket, finding a way to get that ball off. We got to do a better job of protecting Sully and put him in situations where he can feel really clean in the pocket, step into some throws, and create some rhythm.
Coach, as you go through your prep for Maryland, what challenges is that offense, and specifically Talia, talking about lower post?
They're really good. I mean, they're really good. Well-structured run game. A bunch of juniors and seniors up front with the offensive line that understand what they're trying to accomplish. A very deep, talented wide receiver room, and a quarterback that operates at an extremely high level. I mean, just the way that he processes information, scans the field, understands coverages, understands how to attack coverages with the pass concepts that they're utilizing. As you continue to watch the cut-ups and watch the film, it's an impressive operation. It's no surprise that they're averaging over 30 points a game, and it'll be a great challenge for our defense.
Well-structured run game. Roman Hemby ran for 180 yards against Northwestern last year. Have you watched tape at all from that? Is there anything you can gather from that game?
Yeah, no, have watched the tape. Again, little bit different operation last year just with who they had starting at quarterback in our matchup last year. But still, just well-structured. They do a good job of mixing, inside zone, outside zone, some gap scheme, enough element of quarterback run game that keeps you honest. It's well balanced. It's well thought out. They utilize tempo in certain situations that can stress you. Well coached operation with really good personnel.
Coach, I know you've kind of seemed to take more of a hands-off approach to the offense this year, but when you go back and watch the tape from the red zone and enemy territory from Saturday, was there any conversation kind of you initiated with Coach Bajakian about trying to get better in that area and your input in that?
Yeah, I know. Those conversations happen weekly, whether it be the positives that I'm identifying or the things that we need to improve upon, especially early in the week, and then as Mike and I connect throughout the week. There's not a single person in this facility that doesn't want to see that area of our offense and operation continue to improve. At the end of the day, as you evaluate those scenarios, we certainly have to execute, but we have to find ways to just keep the ball and the chains moving forward. Too many times this season when we've positioned ourselves either through simply field position or explosive plays after AJ's big catch, we find ourselves in situations where we're behind the sticks, the ball's going backwards, and now all of a sudden we're out of rhythm. And those are things that, Mike and I have had conversations about, and we're taking active steps to, tweak some things to ensure that that area of our offense improves.
It seemed like there was kind of a firewall between you and the offense at the start of the season. Then you mentioned weekly conversations with Coach Bajakian. What are conversations like with him in game to try to fix some of those issues you're having with the offense?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, considering the context of the situation and the way all this happened, I was never going to be micromanager of the offense. The conversation and consistency with those conversations, has not changed. It's Sunday conversations post game. It's check-ins throughout the week with a very thorough check-in, on Friday, and a trust that Mike and the offensive staff is going to put our guys in the best situation to win games. In game, it's more strategy, time management, conversations about things that I'm seeing from a standpoint, that second to last drive of the second half, a very effective drive in terms of our run game and some of the things that were set up with some of the, Trey Tyus really got going. Just simple comments of like, hey man, Mike, you keep rolling with it. Trey's running the ball really well right now. But, at the end of the day, I know from calling defense for a long period of time, one of the worst things you can do as a head coach is be too involved, especially when the offense or defense is on the field. You got to trust that a play caller is going to find a rhythm, and the worst thing you can do as an offensive or a head coach is in series be too involved where you don't allow that play caller to stay in rhythm and just do their job.
But going off of something you just said there about keeping Trey involved, Trey had 6 carries for 63 yards with a big run, and then didn't see much action the rest of the game. So was that a conversation that took place, and then kind of like, was he just not necessarily responding to that feedback?
No, I'm not mandating, who's in, who's out. I mean, I trust our offensive staff to make in-game adjustments and decisions as they continue to manage our offense. But I'm going to continue to give feedback on the things that I'm seeing, specifically from my role as a head coach, and also my years of experience as a defensive coordinator on things that stress a defense, that hopefully provide the offensive staff with information that can help them continue to move the ball.
Coach, besides the one big play, the defense only gave up around 40 yards passing this entire game. What do you see from the secondary as they progress throughout the year, especially going against one of the top quarterbacks in the Big Ten this week?
Yeah, no, I think you see a group that's continuing to find more and more confidence. Just finding a certain rhythm with one another. I think you find a group that is becoming more and more comfortable in the scheme that we're utilizing. You find a group that is responding to some challenges we put in front of them in terms of being more ball aggressive and having an attitude that when the ball is in the air, it's our ball. And, at the end of the day, what a great challenge for us coming in here with Maryland, a very, very productive, efficient pass game that will challenge us, in every facet of their passing game, whether it be RPO, drop back pass, quick game, screen game, very well structured.
Coach, I believe you guys are set to have a blackout game against Maryland this weekend. I believe, Mark, 3 straight games you guys were in black at home. I know there are some Northwestern fans that kind of want you guys to be in the purple at home. Do you have any input on what color you guys are wearing, or any thoughts on those who feel like you guys should better represent the university's colors?
That is a question that I don't feel positioned to answer right now. I'm going to continue to stay in my lane, and as I continue to grow in this role, maybe I'll continue to collect information, and as I become more informed, have a more convicted opinion on that.
Coach, Thomas Gordon, as you just talked about on the play with Lausch after the big AJ, has a cut block that sent you guys back 15 yards. Is there a conversation about, hey, that's the backside of the play, you don't need to go low and give the referees any chance to throw the flag and just base block instead?
The conversation is eliminating gray, and all the call came back to his pre-snap as he shifted his alignment. Earlier in the game when we had the same shift on, we did not give any gray for the official. We were clearly within the tackle box. As Thomas shifted back in, you could argue it in, round and round about whether it was legal or not based on his pre-snap, but there was certainly an element of gray. And the conversation that we've had as a staff and as a team is that we continue to move forward. We're going to take 100% responsibility. We're going to take extreme ownership, and we're not going to point the finger at outside, influences that we can't control. And officials are part of that. They're doing their best to call the game. He's got to do a good job of getting himself clearly within the tackle box and then execute his assignment. If he gets his alignment in an area that there is no gray, there's no issue on that play.
That's Northwestern head coach David Braun as the Wildcats get set to face Maryland, and quarterback Taulia Tagovailoa According to Braun, Maryland's offense is really good. They have a well-structured run game, a bunch of juniors and seniors up front, a very deep, talented wide receiver room, and a quarterback in Leah that operates at an extremely high level, end quote. And so that wraps up our Monday press conference coverage. Coming up on Tuesday, Ryan Day, James Franklin, two coaches who squared off against each other this past week, and Michael Loxley, who leads that Maryland team into Ryan Field for the date with Northwestern this coming Saturday. You don't see Kirk Ferentz on the list. He normally speaks on Tuesday, but Iowa does have a bye week, so Kirk Ferentz will not be with us on Tuesday.